Did you want to tell people I suck at intros half the time, and people always say talk about themselves? But you want to plug anything or tell people where to go find you, and I can make it all edited and pretty or anything?
So I am Bad Karma, and on Twitch it is such. It's twitch.tv/Bad Karma, but everywhere else pretty much is Bad Karma Lucky, because that is the only time you can get anything Bad Karma related is adding something to it. People love securing that username. The only reason why I even have it on Twitch is because I was lucky enough to get partner, and they were able to steal it for me, basically.
Love it.
So
We
I
need the
stole
theft.
the username. That was great.
I'm trying to steal
So yeah,
that on Twitch or on Twitter. I feel that. I feel that.
yeah. So Bad Karma on Twitch, Bad Karma Lucky everywhere else. And as far as content goes, it's pretty much just Twitch and Twitter. I'll mix in some YouTube and TikTok and short form stuff every once in a while when I'm not absolutely crazy at work.
That's a mood. That's a mood. I feel like half my
Mhm.
things are work. It makes people talk, but TwitchCon was the same with the lanyards. People are always like, hey, so what's Twitch? Like, is it like YouTube? I got yelled at earlier for saying that.
Honestly, the easiest way I ever described what Twitch was to anyone when it was like new to me was I would ask people, they're like, well, what's Twitch? I was like, well, you ever watch YouTube? Like, yeah. You ever comment on things or read comments? They're like, yeah, I know about that. Like, well, imagine you could do that live, and that's Twitch.
That's so smart. I felt so bad for this one Uber driver leaving the convention center, this TwitchCon, because he was like so carefully, like, so I see like this is where you're coming from, because someone had just like chewed him out apparently. And he was like,
Oh,
so like, I was guessing it was like YouTube, and I was told that was like the furthest thing, like nothing like this. And I was like, no, it's just like YouTube. Like it is, YouTube has a live function. It is YouTube.
yeah,
And it's purple, but
yeah.
YouTube. And he was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like it was just, I'm like this poor guy, like just trying to figure out what the hell we were all
Yeah,
doing there.
unfortunately. The best one of those kinds of interactions I had recently was I was at work and Diablo had just come out, Diablo 4. So I was talking to my coworkers about it because they were getting into it, and I went like full crazy on Diablo. I put
I think I
like
remember that you were grinding it pretty
no, I
severely.
still am,
Oh,
but
you are. You
this was
didn't. You didn't
like
abandon it after the
this was like
update.
super early, and at this point, I'm probably like 900 hours in. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. But this was the first few weeks, and I hadn't stopped really playing it at all. So I'm talking to him, and we're talking about like the different classes and stuff, and this guy's like, oh, this thing's pretty popular right now, and I was like, oh yeah, this mechanic's happening, and no one can really explain it. And he's like, oh, you need to watch this video, and I watch it, and it's a freaking Moxie video,
Oh my god.
which I was playing with Moxie like the day before when he was recording this video. So I was like, dude, don't show me this. You can't show me this from this guy. He's a buddy of mine.
That's hilarious. I love when that happens. It's honestly, yeah, the amount of times I will be sent something like in conversation, or they'll be like, yeah, there's this thing, there's a I don't know, there's a mod for like Borderlands. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like it's fine. It's great. Love it. You don't need to come tell me about it, I promise.
When Wonderlands was out and we had a bunch of the creators were playing together to figure
Hmm.
things out and everything. So we're in this call, and that's like me, Jolt, and K6 is in there, and my buddy DePriesticles and I are sitting there chilling, hanging out. And I guess his nephew was over there, and his nephew was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just in a call with a bunch of these people." And he knew that he was a big Jolts fan. He's like, "Oh, actually, I'm talking to Jolts dude right now." And he's like, "No, you're not. Stop lying." Because Jolts is like his favorite
Of
YouTuber.
course, of course.
And he's like, no, come here. And he puts him on. He's like, hey, Jolts, can you say hi to my nephew real fast? And he does, in his like super nice Jolts way.
Oh
And
yeah.
the guy he's freaking out. And to this day, he still thinks that, Priesty and Jolts are hanging out all the time. Just,
Yeah.
best of buds.
Of course, of course. Why not? That's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
it was pretty good.
With Wonderlands, did you do the Chaos Chamber grinds? Do you still play it, or have you tried
So
out?
I dumped so many hours into that game when it was new. We probably within like the first month, we were easily 300-400 hours into it.
Hmm.
So we did a whole lot of grinding immediately. And at
Yeah.
this point, I've kind of I've done everything I want to do in the game, and I've tried out like Epic's Redux mod and done all that stuff, but I haven't really played it a whole lot, even though I'll come back to it every year when I do like the marathon stuff.
Yeah.
I will every once in a while get back into it, but regularly, not really, because I'm usually in grind mode on something else,
No,
whether
I feel
it's
that. Yeah.
like Cyberpunk just came out with their DLC and someone gifted me the game. And at first, when
Wait, is this your
Cyberpunk
first
first,
Cyberpunk? Is this
okay,
your
yes. So I had no clue what anything
Oh,
Cyberpunk
yes.
was,
Give
right?
me. Give
I
me.
knew what it was. I'd heard all the news. I knew everyone was hyped about it. And when, at the time before it came out, I was like, you guys are super hyped about this. And I don't really know why, but be careful because gaming. And it came out and everyone was really bummed. I was like, oh man, I wish I couldn't say I told you so
Yeah.
because it sucks when a game comes out and it's just not what you want it to be.
Hmm.
So I never played it. I never really wanted to, never really had the interest. And a buddy of mine who just loves the game gifted it to me. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. I don't really have plans to play this, but DLC's coming out soon. I guess I could give it a try. And then Phantom Liberty launches and I fired up and I'm like, okay, what? And
Yeah.
I like 200 hours immediately into it. I was
It's
going
fucking
crazy with that game.
phenomenal. It is
So
one of my
very
perfect
big
game
fan.
list. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And I didn't
yeah.
I didn't experience the whole like the way it was when it launched, like the crappy version of it. So I just have the good memories.
You just have 2.0, which is
Yeah.
really really interesting because I didn't play it right at launch, but I was very much like, am I a corporate bootlegger at this point? Because I'm just kind of like, yeah, games have bugs, whatever. Like I was very just like, gamers are gonna gamer and demand refunds, and I didn't really get the scope of how bad it was, and so I was a little scared to play it. And I got it first on PlayStation because I only got a PC together like last December, and so I got it on my PS5 and started playing it on there, and I was like, it's really overwhelming, but like it didn't have any issues. And so I was like, okay, I don't want to like commit to it though if it's fine. And then my girlfriend ended up playing it on PC and like in like one sitting, like didn't like 3 days, I think, straight, did not anything. It was like, you need to play this game. I'm
It's
forcing you to
so
play this
easy to
game.
do.
It's so easy to do, especially because like
Yeah.
I get really overwhelmed with like new UIs on games. Like even the BL3
Mm.
UI, like I almost was like panic attack. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Give me a second. Like I need to orient. So Cyberpunk feels so overwhelming at first with just all the stuff. And then about the time everything, and spoilers, whatever, but about the time with like Johnny like first introducing,
Mhm.
it suddenly opens up more, and you just kind of like intuitively will be like, okay, I need to like check cyberware, I need to do that. And however they built that was so good. And so I fell
Yeah.
in love with that version. I think it was 1.6. And so 2.0, when they're like, we're redoing skill trees and I was like a little nervous about it. I'm like, no, it's so good now. It's like, I'm so excited for the DLC, but am I gonna like have to warm up to it again? And so I just restarted a new file, and every single element of it was better. And I do not know how they did that. Like I genuinely do not have a
Yeah.
complaint about 2.0, and it's one of the games I feel like I could replay for years. It's so good. It's
Yeah,
so
like
good.
that's one of those things I wish I could just sit down with like the decision makers for hours and just be like, okay, when it launched, take me through your process. Did you just comb Reddit and YouTube videos and
Right?
just look at everything that was wrong and then say, yep, we're gonna fix that and that and that and that and that and then just put that all in there because now everybody loves it.
Well, what's
I
really
haven't heard a
interesting,
single negative thing about the Phantom Liberty 2.0 launch.
none of it. Like even and like Idris Elba was amazing, but like what
Hmm.
was really interesting is seeing the reaction from the devs on Twitter, with a lot of people being like, "Oh, it was always good." The devs would respond and be like, "No, it wasn't. Like the story was good." Like they're very much like, "We're taking this." But when we were at PAX West this year, my girlfriend and I we had a Rogue and Pan Am cosplay that we were doing,
Oh,
and we were
okay.
so far back from any, like we were so late to the con. We were doing what, like we were just taking our sweetest time, weren't on the show floor, hadn't even gone through security in this back little corner, and we just stopped to take a couple photos since we hadn't had any yet, and we had been fighting with costume modeling contacts and shit. And this dude beelines to us from like the exit over there, and he's like, if you're looking to get in contact with anyone at CDPR, here's my card. I'm head of PR there. And he was like, we're so excited. Are
Amazing.
you doing this? And he was just so passionate talking about it. And it was that moment where it was like, this is a team of like 1,000 people who,
Mhm.
tripled their budget or whatever it was to fix a game that they love. And they did it so well. But he was genuinely just like you could feel the energy off him, where he was like, everyone's over here. Like I wasn't even supposed to come. No one's like, I was leaving. I happened to leave this door, and like, oh my God, I'm seeing people like in person who are like excited for this. And it was like this moment where it was like, I'm rooting so hard again for this launch, and because it was about a couple weeks, I think, at that point before. But I tell Chad all the time when someone will come in inevitably about Borderlands 3 or something like that, or be negative. I'm just like, no one sets out to make like a bad game or a disappointing game at all. You have to assume
Yeah.
that everyone who's actually like in the process of making the game is wanting to put something out there that they are proud of and they love. That's like any creative process. But there's so many
Mhm.
hands in it. And so for them to somehow pull that off while still being like this indie studio, but have this much focus and pressure on them, I'm amazed. And I absolutely want everyone to play it at any given time. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and the Pan Am cosplay just is amazing because I freaking love Pan Am. She's the
Love her.
best.
I love her. She's the best. I was gonna say, did you do
She's
her
so
ending?
awesome. So I'm kind of funny in a way where I definitely was on the side of the Pan Am
Yeah.
portion. And then I get to the end of the main story quest and you have, all those decisions that you get to make.
Yeah.
I made a save point there because I wanted to go back and do a whole bunch of those decisions.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that you would just have that availability to you at the end of the trail anyway. So
Yeah.
kind of a waste of a save file. But I did the same thing with Phantom Liberty too. So I have actually gone through probably 7 or 8 of the different storyline endings.
Amazing.
And I even created a second character just so I can go through Judy's arc more.
Yeah.
So I had like one male V, one female V, and then just making like, well, one's like a katana play style and one's like a quick hack play style. So that part
Yeah.
was really fun too. But yeah, I did the Pan Am ending. I did the non-Pan Am ending. The one after Phantom Liberty is like the most depressing version,
There's so many
especially with what happens with.
literally. No, literally. I'm such a sucker for lore in games. Like I'm
Mhm.
background, I'm an actor and screenwriter, and so I just like always like will rant about just the stories in games you don't get like just by watching a movie. It's like you get from binging a TV show, which is why I think people do it, but it's in a different way where you have,
Mhm.
20 to 40 hours like immersed with these characters at minimum. And so you can really, really pick apart this in Cyberpunk's endings, like gut me. Like I will sometimes just be minding my own business, doing dishes or something, and Rogue's voicemail to Johnny at like one of those endings, like will come up in my head and I'm like, oh my God, like I just something
I
about
know.
it is so
They
devastating.
definitely did not just let you have the warm and fuzzies at all.
No, the fact
You're
that
like,
like the
okay,
best
all
ending, it's
right.
like we'll figure it out maybe. Like you're just sitting here. It just oh my God,
You're a ticking time bomb. It's fine.
it's fine, but I love it. And it's one of those things where since I love Tales from the Borderlands so much, it's clearly very Jack and Reese coded at that point. Where
Okay,
I like
that
felt
first game was awesome.
it was amazing.
And
Amazing.
I just want justice for Gortys is all I want. Because
Dude, my
we haven't
computer is
seen.
named Gordist. I fucking
Oh
love
my
Gordist.
God, I love Gortys. I
She's
have
the
sound effects,
best.
the hi.
She
I
is
have
so
that
good.
as all of my like stream. Anytime someone says hi in chat, just boom, it
Amazing.
plays.
No, literally, when I got this computer, I was like, set it up. I'm like, her name is Gordis. This is it. We protect her because Gordis is best girl and we love her.
Yeah,
Her and
and
Loaderbot, everything.
yeah, and I'm so mad we haven't seen them since, and I have a grudge against any future game that doesn't feature them.
Oh no, same. Even like the teaser with Fiona at the end of New Tales, I'm like, okay, but like, is this so we couldn't afford Laura Bailey, or is this like we're sitting on it still because we need to bring my babies back? It's
Yeah.
just, I feel like it's such a good gateway for people who went. Shooters are such a niche like genre
Mhm.
anyway. And when people are a little intimidated by FPS, when people just picture like Call of Duty and stuff like that, or they haven't, like, no one looks at Bioshock and goes, that's an FPS, right? And so
Right.
it's hard to get that branch over. And I feel like Tales is such a love letter to the universe of Borderlands and does such a good job of capturing that and bringing people in. And then we just like never touched it. And I just we touched part of it, but I'm like, no, please, justice for Cordes. But Valerie, Vasquez, August, every character in
There's
that game
so
was so
many
good.
good, interesting characters, so many fun interactions.
So good.
So
Patrick
I mean,
Warburton, amazing.
I don't know if I'm on the minority of this, but I'm probably not. I was not a fan of New Tales.
No, you're not in the
I
minority. Are you on the internet?
I
Of course you're in the
played
minority.
through I played through so I love narrative driven games. Like
Yeah.
Detroit Become Human is one of my favorite games of all time. Love the Quarry, love
Yes.
all of the Dark Pictures anthologies, the
Fucking
Telltale games. So when Tales from the Borderlands was a thing I played through, which I did for the first time in one of my Borderlands marathons,
Yeah.
I freaking loved it. And the end, when they're in the giant Gortys thing,
So
I played
good.
the Power Rangers theme and I was rocking out.
Amazing.
And so I freaking love it. And then New Tales came along, and I was at first I was like, okay, this is okay. Not Octavia's not what I expected for sure. And then it
Hmm.
kept going. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to finish this game,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I forced myself to, and I was so mad about it.
Same.
I was just
Which
so
ending
mad
did you
about the
get?
whole game.
Did you get the
Um,
Fran dying off screen ending?
the I got the everyone gets brought back no matter what happened to him with the
Yeah.
crystal ending, whichever one that one is.
Yeah. That's like, I think everyone gets that ending, and then there's a weird epilogue where they just like kill Fran off screen. And I'm like, what was the point of anything? No, you're not in the minority. People yell about it a lot. And I try to find my actual feelings about it buried beneath the fact that I fucking loved the original Tales. And I'm comparing
Yeah.
it because they set it up to be compared with it. Because I do think Telltale, like I love choice-based games, like yeah, The Quarry clearly, like Dark
Mhm.
Pictures. Until Dawn was one of my first cosplays. Like it's why I got a PS4. Like I fucking love narrative choice games, and so I was excited that we were expanding the universe. I was like, we don't need a direct sequel. Maybe like it's fine. Let's see where this goes. And then I was playing for the first time on stream too, and progressively throughout the game, I was like, okay, well, I like this about the director. I like this character, and then by the end, I was just raging. And I need to
Yeah.
go back and replay it because there are elements I think I probably overreacted to and would like to see played out differently. And how much weight are we taking in this? Like, it's a fun game. It doesn't have to be like the best of the franchise by any means, but I was rooting so hard for it that then it just felt like it didn't take any of its own lore seriously. And like
Mhm.
what my shifting point of anything was of all the weird stuff I had before. I'm like, well, Reese is still kind of like body snatched and this, and are we going somewhere with this and whatever. Was when they were in the vault, which I don't even believe is a real vault, and they're just like, here are all these Iridian signs that talk about advertisements and this, and then Timmy, like, it was all this stuff where I'm like, okay, well, this is a fake vault Reese made, it's under this thing, whatever, that I have my conspiracy theory for. But I sat there and was like, otherwise you're just sacrificing the sacred part of your lore, which is like anything with the Iridians, for a joke that doesn't even land, because
Mhm.
you're like, oh, the ceilings are like great, and we can, like, there's no humor to it. It's not worth it. There's no
Yeah.
payoff.
It's like someone wrote the it's like someone was explained what a Borderlands vault is and then wrote
Yeah.
that without realizing like what it actually is and what it pertains to and all the lore behind it.
Yeah.
And that's what that reminded me of. And
That's
I
yeah.
think the I think the one thing that made me the most mad about it all is they set up Octavian in like the opening scene to be like this super clever, like streetwise kind of guy who may not have all the talents, but could like bring everyone together and
Yeah.
have good plans all the time. And then they just made him a complete
He just
moron
talks about tacos the
throughout.
entire game, and
It's
yeah.
oh my gosh.
The
I'm
whole
like, oh,
sequence, yeah.
you're the George Clooney of Oceans, or like,
I
and then
wish.
no, you're not. You're not that at all.
No, no. And that's the thing. I feel like it's some of them is some marketing. Like, I have no idea. And I want to, like, I really enjoyed a bunch of the performances in it and different things like that, where I'm like, I can find things that I don't think it's like the worst thing that the internet very much will just take it. But it really left me just going like, okay, this has to be going somewhere. Otherwise, what the hell was any of this for? Because it's
Yeah.
just nothing. Which is why I'm like, no, this is a fake vault. Reese made it. He needs to, like, all this stuff to make it this actual like deep. That it's probably never gonna happen because I'm crazy. And it's just like, maybe I'm right, maybe whatever. But I'm like, I know this is me going, okay, well then let me make this like a huge picture, and rather than just the fact that maybe some things got cut and they had to do some
Mm.
stuff, and it just. I don't know. Yeah, tonally it didn't hit, but choice based in general, like Detroit Become Human, what you're talking about,
Oh, so good.
amazing. Pretty much every Telltale game,
Yeah.
like it makes me cry at some point. Like they're all fantastic.
Mhm.
And even little things like Cyberpunk isn't choice based, but like the more games we're getting that actually feel like the RPG's immersive in that point where you really can
Yeah.
have
Like
those dialogue. Yeah,
the NPCs change their interactions with you. Maybe some things are now available that weren't before. Like all of these decisions matter in
available
your
missions.
experience.
Yeah,
So good.
it's really something. Like I haven't played Starfield yet, but I worry. I feel like it. I just get the feeling it'd bore me a little bit. Like I feel like the criticism of it being mile wide, inch deep is a little bit ringing
Mm.
true from my experience with games. But I also haven't gone through and played Skyrim, and like I haven't really fallen in love with the Bethesda game because I've always been a PlayStation person for most of my life, and
Yeah.
so I just didn't have access to a lot of it when I was really hyper fixating on very specific games.
Mhm.
But there's something about the concept of like no longer needing that like silent protagonist that I get really turned off in games when it's just like here is your person, you're going to go do stuff. Like I need to feel,
I
yeah,
hate the silent protagonist,
yeah, it's yeah,
especially when it's like you're going through and you're doing all these insane things in the world that you know would be like super newsworthy.
hmm
And then the next town you come across, the guards want to arrest you because you look like a beggar or
yeah,
something. You're like,
yeah.
come on, man. You never heard of what I've done yet?
We'll
Like
even have that
what's going on
problem
here?
in BL2. Like I love it in TPS when we get a little bit more like anything in the story. But even like as a Maya main in BL2, when Jack's like an inch from your face talking about I'm taking a siren, like, yeah, I know he knows that Maya doesn't have reading power and
Hi.
all this other stuff. But I'm like, just take them both. Just shoot her. Just
Yeah.
what at this point
You're like,
would
hi,
have this
siren
happen
here.
here? Exactly. Like your entire thing is you're a siren running around and he has echoes where he's
Mm.
like, find her, and then there's nothing. And so you're like, this just feels a little easy. And granted, that's a product of its time. That was 10 years ago. But we're at a point now where I think I've been really spoiled by games that let us have this relationship with these characters. And
Mm.
yeah, but like Detroit was one of those that really snuck up on me. Where I knew I would like it because I had so many people that were like really into it. But it took a second to really get into the narrative for me because I was like, yeah, choice based robots. And then it just like it goes for your jugular a little bit. And I
Yeah.
love when games do that so much.
It
So
puts you
much.
in your feels. No matter what kind of person you seem to be, like it'll put you in your feels for something.
I remember it was one of the only choice based games that I did what I do for like the super massive games or something where I'll try to like force quit my console or like hard restart if I like think I fuck up on something where I first time playing I'm like, okay, does he have to die here or did I mess this up here? Like I
Yeah.
just nothing happened, but it would be
Restart
so
checkpoint.
smart. But it'd be so smart. Like until dawn, if you're not very careful with the timing, will do it. The quarry, not
Mhm.
forgiving at all. It's like, nope, you were here, you're fucked. Like there's it's autosave is instant. And I love that for the consequences of it, but it also infuriates me. But yeah, Detroit was the first one in a while that had made me a little bit like, I'm gonna break the game. I'm
Yeah.
gonna figure this out. It's so
So
good.
the quarry was funny because I played through it normally with like my own choices of what I
Mhm.
wanted to do. And then I played through it again in the like movie gore fest mode because
Yes.
we wanted to see like, oh, we want to see all the really cool deaths and stuff. And that was cool and all, but I feel like they definitely missed some opportunities because there were some more crazy deaths on some
Oh
characters.
yeah.
Like I played it through a third time and I let chat decide everything I could let
Yeah.
them decide pretty much. And somehow they got Jacob killed as he was running away from Bobby, I think it was, in
Baby.
the forest,
He's such
and
a
he
himbo.
falls into the bear trap. I don't know if you've ever seen that one,
I haven't seen that one. Oh my
but it's
god.
amazing and it was so surprising that I just busted up laughing. But that's like one of those moments where you just you don't do something in the right amount of time or choose a different option and all of a sudden boom, this character is just gone.
Or even like shooting, you can shoot. I think it's not Ryan in the bushes, or it's Jacob. You can shoot Jacob in the bushes when he's like coming back to
Mm-hmm.
camp on accident in the
Mm-hmm.
face, and it's like all the little things like that that I just get so paranoid playing in those games because it's like coming from like a Life is Strange background where you end up with two binary choices or whatever. Like I never trust anything in a super massive game or a kind of. I'm just like not like this. I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm restarting if I accidentally run over the squirrel because I know what is going to happen here. But I love
they
it, and I love that they have the power.
They did Jacob so dirty that game. There's so many
They
ways that you
did.
can kill him.
He
Just
got the worst.
like
Is
you mess up the puzzle on the power thing and he's
That's how
gone.
I always kill him. Like I will
It was
get that
so
far at that
funny.
point where anytime, and it's just someone just gives up and leaves, and I'm like, and then the gate opens and he's eaten, and I'm like, baby, like I tried so hard to keep you alive, and all you've been doing is being rejected all game for just
Yeah.
trying to be a good dude. Like I feel for him so hard, but he has the best '80s outfit, I will say. When they give him the cool cosmetics, he has his little booty shorts and his massive little jersey, and I love it. But no, he's so good. I think yeah, the more I don't even need the hyper realistic kind of style that they have, but I do love it. But the
Mhm.
more games they make, they're making a DVD choice based. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I DVD is such a
Did you
funny
used to be a
thing.
DVD streamer? I was
Oh
like,
yeah, so many hours in that game, and
same.
it's one of those where I loved the game, I loved the play style, I love the lore of the game. Like character releases, first thing I'm doing, I'm going to the lore tab and I'm reading the
Mhm.
story, and then you get all the lore things through the Rift and all that. But they changed the core gameplay. They made a huge update that changed like the whole feel of the game, and you
Yeah.
have it was one of those typical things where, when balancing happens in games, you have these people crying over here about this thing and these people crying over here about this thing. So
Yeah.
the community itself is very toxic in the way that it communicates with each other, and everyone just cries about it. You're like, you don't even seem like you enjoy this game. Why do you keep playing? It's like every Tarkov player, every Destiny player, every
League.
League of
Yeah.
Legends player out there. So that really turned me off of wanting to play it. But then the game just felt worse to me. So I
Yeah.
really just stopped playing
When
it.
did
Now it's
you
just
abandon it? Yeah.
when they did that big update, I don't remember exactly when it was. I want to say it was like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And now I will get a group of people together and we'll play it together as four survivors once in a while. Like we did that recently, probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Hmm.
And then I'll uninstall it for a while. And then we'll get a group together again and I'll reinstall it and play it. So it's just very randomly here and there now.
Yeah. DBD is one of those that like I'm excited for the concept of it going with Supermassive because I'm like, give us the lore is also something I really hyper fixated on with that. Like I cosplay Meg and I just like a bunch of other people on the list, but I can't make myself do it because I've fallen out of love with it for a second. But it was one of those games that too many hours in it, and the joke clearly always is no one who plays DBD likes DBD. Like it's kind of the nature of the community. But within like 6 months, when I finally was like, cool, I have this, I have online, connection now. I'm going to grind this on PlayStation. And for the first time, because my laptop can never handle it, but I like modded for DBD streamer and all that stuff. And so I was like, cool, let me just play it. Within, I think it was 5 months, I had over 1,000 hours. I'm like, this is a problem. Like, I need to walk away. And then something changed with one of their updates, because that's the game I cite all the time when I say people who are obsessed with the idea of balance, like it really ruins the game because it's an asymmetrical game to begin with, but like you're looking at it and like it was, I even went through like a few like, oh, these killers are kind of lame, kind of whatever, it's fine. Go through it. And then I don't know if you saw, I think it had to be several months ago at this point because time doesn't make sense, but they removed like basically what boons do at all and nerfed health packs and everything else. I'm like, there's nothing fun playing. I don't know why that update specifically, but I'll try to log on. And I don't want to redo the blood point grind on PC because it's just so not rewarding anyway. But because there's nothing to it. Like I have a billion keys on my PlayStation I can't even use because you got rid of the hatch mechanic at that point. And so I'm just like, what's the point of regrinding with shitty games with people who aren't wanting to play the game right now when you can't even play it at this state? Like I genuinely, again, it's one of those games rooting for, but at the same time, if it's going to be so obsessed with the concept of like a few people crying on this side for, XYZ to be nerfed or buffed or, this, it's just, even still, you're going to get tunneled or camped or you're going to get people who throw or now you have bots and it just still doesn't feel fun to play anymore. And I don't know how it's so dramatically shifted because I haven't had a lot of games that just like lose me that quick. But I'm hoping like an expansion, like a Supermassive thing will bring new people into the game and maybe bring a little more life back to it because I know so many people who have abandoned for like Texas Chainsaw and it's just it's rough right now. It's really rough right now.
Yeah, I was a both sides player. Like I would do killer, I would do survivor, and I would do it pretty equally. And it was like both of them were really fun for me. And then they did that big massive update, and it felt to me at that time like really killer side. Like it's a 4v1 game, but any 1v1 situation, the killer is heavily favored and should be because it's a 4v1 game. So it seems like they took that and made it even worse. And to me, at least, it felt that way. And I was just like, I'm not a big fan of the way that they reworked all this stuff. And that's why I didn't even play killer after that. If it's going to be super killer sided, it's not
If
going
you're
to be that
gonna
much
roll,
fun
it's not fun. And I tell people that all the time when I play games under level and make them hard. I'm like, it's not fun for me to feel OP as fuck in anything I play, but especially into PvP. Like I want to have some kind of reward center in my brain, and if the game's not giving me anything but blood points, and I've found all the lore and I've done everything, there's something else but a good game, and it's just kind of boring at that point. I think it was around the time they updated the prestige system or something, because that's when I kind of stopped playing killer, and I think it's one of those things where if you go against a really sweaty forward stack, it probably sucks as killer in any game, but like in general, it feels impossible if you just load into the wrong spot on a map. You're just immediately just done.
And they did some good things on like, giving you more information as a survivor so that
Yeah.
if you are solo queuing, like maybe it's easier and all that. But solo queuing is like the worst. It sucks
It's the
so
worst, but
bad.
I got 1,000 hours of it in like fucking five
Yeah.
months. So it had a charm to it. And then yeah, it was just such an overhaul that it yeah, I think lost touch, which is real sad because I feel like it's really easy for players to be like, oh, this is what's wrong with the game, and DBD definitely is no stranger to that. But I mean, even looking at stuff with everything coming out with Destiny and Bungie right now, where it's like devs
Mhm.
know they want to make it better, and so I'm wondering with DBD where really they're listening to at this point because even the statements they put out feel a little bit like, do you remember the game you actually made at this point? Because it doesn't even feel, I'm not
Yeah.
even like, oh, let's not add fun things. It doesn't feel horror anymore, but like it just doesn't feel like the same purpose anymore. It's like when Netflix was like, you can't share a password. I was just like, this
Yeah.
is now a different situation. And I don't know if I want to play all my hours of free time in it anymore.
Yeah, and one of my big pet peeves with like gamer communities these days is everyone thinks that they represent most of the gamers out there. And
Yes.
I have to like check people and be like, "Bro, do you not realize that you are abnormal? You have to realize this." Because I'll be surrounded by a lot of like for take Dead by Daylight for example. I'll be surrounded by a lot of competitive sided gamers. And I'm like,
Hmm.
dude, you have to understand that not everyone can loop a killer.
Yeah.
Most people can't. And so all of these things that you want make it better for a competitive player, but make it worse for 90% and below because
Yeah.
you're the 1 percentile. Like
Exactly.
I
Especially when
had
it's not a competitive game to begin with in like a esport kind of way.
yeah. Like yeah, there's a competitive side to the game, but it's not a competitive,
Yeah.
like you're saying, esports game. There's no world for that. There's no the way that it's formatted and systematic doesn't work.
No.
And I had that in Diablo the other day. I actually was
Yeah.
like in a big argument with someone because they're saying this activity sucks and everybody hates it. And I was like, hold on, I like it. You can't say everybody. They're like, no, it's bad because of this. And I said, you don't speak for me. You
Yeah.
can't. Don't say it. And it's like, okay, so number one, so Diablo 4 had like 10 plus million copies sold. So if you imagine there's 10 million players out there, not all of them are playing the game actively.
Yeah.
And I think pre-season, before season one started, I think they reported like 6,000 total players reached max level. So anyone that was level 100 already represented such a small
Yeah.
fraction of the Diablo player base. And then that increased with season one. There was like 580 some odd thousand. I think they just put an email about that hit level 100 because they made the grind a little bit easier. They added some stuff in the game that made it a little bit more fun. And now season two is going to improve even more on that. But it's like, dude, you're such a small percentage of players. And when you say things like everyone or most or 99% of players, like you're just giving your experience and you're projecting it as if it's for everybody. And you have to stop that. You're just going to drive yourself
Yeah.
crazy if you think that.
Well, I think there's also a lot to like. I remember talking to, ironically, it was Sam Winkler, the Gearbox writer,
Mhm.
at PAX, where we were just talking about narrative stuff in general and how it's one of those things that I know my opinion isn't, the right thing for the game all the time. Like, yeah, I have plenty of, most of the time, if any of the time, but I'm like, I have plenty of opinions. And so when people will say, like, this is what I don't like, and they don't realize kind of the snowball effect a decision will have on a game. Like if a writer has someone take off their jacket, people are in a spiral for like days later trying to figure out how the hell to like make this work. So then they have to take out and they're like, okay, never mind. And I see that from like the movie making side, but from games, it's so much
Yeah.
more intense because it's like it's done kind of separately in a different ecosystem rather than here's prep, here's this, and then we have a team on the go. Like it's definitely like we have team on this, and people are easy to go like, oh, writing's issue or balance is an issue or combat's an issue when they're not realizing how things really go together. And one of the things he said that I hadn't heard in ages but was absolutely right was that you have to like think about games as like this could be someone's very first game they've ever picked up ever. Like this is someone's entry to this game. People like me, I say all
Mhm.
the time, are not the target audience for this game. They know I'm going to buy it anyway. Like it's not hard to sell it to me, but it's also like I'm going to go and grind it for way longer than what that, promised playtime is. And so that's a different level. And you should still like, yes, have end game and have that support and like figure that out. But the actual game really breaks, I think, in a lot of ways that people don't realize when they're just like, oh, we'll just take it and add this. And I'm like, there's a reason they didn't do that. You think no one sitting here was like, oh yeah, add this, or why am I getting one shot here, or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
it's just so hard in the echo chamber of especially online gaming, because people who
Oh
are
yeah.
already talking about their hobbies versus doing that, like it's really hard to one be okay being wrong, but also just be like, maybe my way of playing is not everyone's way, and also most people aren't good at games. So it's just like I am curious, since Diablo, I've never actually played a Diablo game, but that's what got me talking about it for a while. I know I really want to. So I actually just
Oh,
started playing Overwatch 2 as my first Blizzard
okay.
game. And I'm a little bit obsessed and I hate myself for it, but I'm like, and by a little bit I mean it's one of those this is now all of my time things. I'm worried Diablo will get like that. But that started debate on a previous episodes talking about difficulty sliders. Like, how
Mhm.
do you feel? Because a lot of people bring that up with like Elder Scrolls and Diablo and stuff like
Yeah.
that. What's your general vibe on if games like, do you prefer them having that, or does it take away something from you, especially if it's like not an esports kind of thing? Because so many of these games
Mm,
are people being competitive, but on like a solo system where like, yeah, you have co-op, but it's not in the same kind of like, here's a leaderboard of stuff. You know what I mean?
yeah. I actually I'm kind of neutral on it, but I know it's a really big discussion, especially when you have a game's identity built around difficulty and accomplishment.
Yeah.
So for the Souls-like games, I get it. They don't have a difficulty slider. That accessibility option is not there. But it's like one of those games where you're proud to say, I beat this. Like I
Yeah.
remember I'm friggin' old as heck, and I remember coming from those console games that didn't have save files.
Oh no,
You had
same.
to beat a game in one go, or you didn't at all. And it was like
Hmm.
a proud accomplishment of saying, yeah, I beat Mario 1 and 2 and 3. I beat these games that you couldn't save on, or some super tough game like The Lion King on Sega Genesis,
The Lion King on Sega is a hard fucking game. It's a
Yes, it
hard. I
is.
have never beat that
And
goddamn game.
and the first time I threw Scar over that cliff, I was jumping up and down. It was
The
awesome.
Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Lion King fucking Sega Genesis games have
Hmm.
scarred me. The thorns in the bushes with Belle.
Yeah.
Oh my god, haunt me,
Yeah.
haunt
So
me.
like I'm cool if games want to do that. When it comes to games like Diablo, so Diablo is super interesting because you have every entry into the universe is so different. Diablo
Yeah.
1, completely different style game than any of the other ones. 2 is more for the hardcore gamer. 3 was a very casual friendly, very fast, a very action
Hmm.
oriented version. 4 kind of mixes a little bit of all of that. Slower than 3, but more casual friendly than 2, kind of a deal. Very lore rich games, which is very fun for me, but they all have this difficulty option setting. And what they do with the difficulty options is they say, okay, well, if you go up in difficulty, you get rewarded by getting more experience points, you get more gold, you get more item drops. And Diablo 3 had, so it goes like easy, normal, hard, expert,
Hmm.
master, and then it goes up to this torment level. And then torment goes up to torment 16.
Holy
So it
shit.
actually has like 20 some odd settings for all of these things, right? And even Diablo 4 has 4 different settings, but they're not really difficulties. They're world tiers or world states,
Yeah.
kind of like how the Division does it, where you have to
Okay.
earn the next world tier, and then you get into it and you get, more experience, more items, access to more things, kind of a deal. It does it in an interesting way. But what I do wish that it had is versions of like the boss fights. So if a casual player who only gets to play a couple hours a week goes in and they beat one of the, end game bosses, they feel good about it. They get the rewards, they move on. The more hardcore players, they want to grind those bosses. They want to take them down 50 times in a day, kind of a
Yeah.
deal. So for them, I think it's best to have those aspirational difficulties.
Hmm.
Like I would love if there was an Uber version of every single one of these bosses that was a much bigger challenge. Because once you get to the end of the game where you've built your awesome build and you've min-maxed everything like
Yeah.
looters love to do, you gotta have something.
Yeah.
You gotta
You
have
really
something to
do.
chase, right? So yeah, I'm in favor of them, I guess, suppose, but I'm kind of neutral. Like if a game doesn't have it, cool. If it does have it, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy on Hades, the roguelike Hades, where I'll turn up the Pact of Heat on the game to see how different it feels.
That's a game I keep needing to play, and like K6 is yelling at me about it, and my girlfriend's yelling, everyone's
Oh
yelling at me about
yes.
it. And
If
it's
you
one of
want.
those, yeah.
Woo.
I have it on three platforms. I have it on PC, Switch, and PlayStation at this point, and I just
Oh,
can't commit to what I'm playing it on, and so I just
oh
haven't.
yes.
And I know
If you
everyone is like, "This
want
is a
some
perfect game."
amazing writing, some amazing art style, great voiceovers, great music, really
Everything.
fun gameplay cycle, like game of the year every year.
That is a hell of an endorsement, but I love it.
It is
But yeah,
so good.
it's yeah, the amount of people that will put it on like their favorite list when we get talking
Hmm.
about it, and it's games that you never would picture them with. It's amazing. Like
Hmm.
it surpasses people who've never touched a roguelike, people who, are very much I only do platformers or I only do shooter or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like every time they surprise me, they're like, "Oh, Hades! Have you played Hades?" Like it is a
Hmm.
universally like this is a fantastic game.
It is so good. It is
I
so
love it.
great. And yeah, I definitely have it on my list too. Like
Yeah,
my list is so
all over the
it's
place.
so erratic. Like like as far as franchises go, like Destiny and Borderlands are like my two, and Diablo are my two,
Yeah.
three favorite franchises of all times. Like retro games, I'm like Super Mario World and
I'm
Castlevania 2
competitive
Simon's
as fuck at
Quest.
Pac-Man. I feel.
And then like I have Hades and Detroit Become Human, where these are like some of my favorite single player experiences of all time. Like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, I think is such an impactful game. That's one I'll put on a list of some of my favorite games ever.
What game's that? I've not heard of it.
So, it's called Hellblade. They have a
Yeah.
second one coming out next year, maybe, I think. The first one was Senua's Sacrifice. The second one is called, I don't remember what the second one is called. But so you are the best way I could describe it is like a Horizon Zero Dawn kind of feel where you're looking over the shoulder, third person. You have some like Zelda kind of puzzles as you're working through the story, but it's very centered around like mental health awareness.
Ooh.
And the character you're playing is quite literally going insane as you're playing through the game.
Oh,
She's hearing voices. She's been through this traumatic event, and like you're kind of living this trauma with her as you're going through the game, and it gets darker and darker as the game goes on. It is so good.
amazing. Is it technically a horror game or is it more just
Probably more of like a thriller.
yeah.
It's very action based. So you have like a sword, and
Hmm.
there's combat mechanics, but you don't see a HUD. Like you don't see your health bar. You don't have
Yeah.
abilities. You just have. It's like a Souls like kind of where you are fighting this enemy and you have to remember how they attack and parry or block or dodge, and that's it. And like as your character gets beat up more and they die more, you see this like sickness crawling up their body. And I think it tells you that once you die too many times, the game's over
Oh my God,
and
that's
you have to
amazing.
restart.
I'm shocked I haven't heard of this. Like that is a fantastic pitch, honestly.
It is so good. And then at the end, they talk about how they focused a lot on, like in the credits, they talk
Hmm.
about how they focus a lot on the mental health part of the game and telling the story, and helping people kind of cope with this or be aware of it, that people in their lives might be experiencing this kind of thing. And it was very, very cool.
So many indie horrors and like thrillers will be the ones to really, I think, carry that weight and do that. But there's so many like little one-shot horror games that I've seen or played through the
Mhm.
years that really do such a better job at really diving into some of the more just powerful and a little bit dramatic, but moments that I feel like film can't even really get. Like it's things that'll sneak up on you. Like when talks about Doki Doki Literature
Mhm.
Club being that thing that sneaks up on you, and even like spoiled for the first time, it still kind of was like, oh okay, like got me. But there's so many, like Mark Claire always used to do the like the three scary games or the little like indie games, and there'd be so many little ones like years ago that I couldn't even tell you the name of and still stick with me, where it's like you have 5 days to save the world, but you know you're dying, your family's dying and going through.
Mhm.
And it's like those kind of things that really stick with you. And I love that it's like these, I don't want to say little in like a negative way at all, but like these usually one man team games that
Mhm.
really have stuck into my subconscious somewhere about it. Because then we do get really, really cool, deep games. And I think things like Hades and a lot of these things that really take off are really inspired when I break it down by these one-off little indie games through the years, or like they started out with this different team, and I love looking back and seeing all these threads that I'm never really expect. And we're seeing things like I think it's Annapurna with Neon White when it came out, because I remember Tattletale, and like that
Mhm.
just stayed with me for a bit, and then it was such a departure to see like a Neon White kind of game, but I love seeing those threads still there, and I'm like the fact that this one little Furby demon game stuck with me for so long that I recognized this years later was honestly amazing, and I love saying that. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you ever get a chance to pick up Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, play through it, you'll love it. I haven't met a person that hasn't enjoyed it.
I love
It's
it.
just it's very impactful. Like that's the best. If I could use one word to describe a game, that's what I would use for that game. It's very impactful.
I feel like that's what you want your game to be. Like it's one of those things where
Yeah.
it's like if you leave something behind, if you make something like you just want it to like not be like immediately forgotten. And like I saw this whole thread about like there was a remake of Poltergeist we all just collectively forgot about that existed and kind of stuff. And it's like that is like the most scathing to me thing to me
Yeah.
is if I made something and it didn't leave any kind of reaction. Like if people didn't like it, okay, like you know, it's someone will like nine people's favorite thing, then 100 people's ninth favorite thing kind of philosophy with it. You know, or you can learn from it, or you can really like dig into it. But just the games that I think I played that. No,
Mm.
it's the ones that I want to recommend all the time. Or like even Layers of Fear. I don't remember anything about the second, but I love the first and recommend the first all the time.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
And it's like, even if it's not the best memory, like at least you're making an impact and letting people remember for something.
Yeah,
And then, that it could be used for internet memes. Like right now, I troll a bunch of my Borderlands friends and tell them how Borderlands 4 is just going to have a whole bunch of new Tales lore
I
in
love
it.
it. Oh yeah,
And
that's
they
all you have
hate
to
me for
do.
that.
I just bring up Ava anytime I need to start a fight. It's amazing. Just just kind of
I love
sprinkle in there.
Ava.
I think she's great.
People,
I
I
think
don't
she's
get
so
it.
well. She is one of the only characters with a complete narrative. Like she's an arc. She's an arc
She
in the
has,
game.
yeah, yeah.
She's just a teenager. She's responding in a very
And
authentic
she's the
way.
only one that calls out Lilith for her bullshit. Like,
Literally, she
I
she
hate it.
called her out accurately. I'm sorry, Maya was
Yeah,
gonna die regardless walking in there. That was not Ava's fault. If anything, all we know is then when she got the powers and we got the out of there. So maybe Ava fucking saved him. Who
yeah.
fucking knows at this point? But like I'm just like, what are you talking about? Where it's like we're able to like look at this and like have her tell off Lilith. Like that's an important moment when it's a Lilith
Mhm.
story. And like Borderlands isn't a game to slow down and like give you time. Like now we're gonna have a cutscene that's a funeral and we're gonna do this. People bitch about having to re-listen to 4 seconds of dialogue. Like what are you talking about? She was a teenager who was emotional. Have you never lashed out and blamed someone when something like that happens?
Yeah, but she's saying the things that I'm saying is like, did you guys not learn from Jack? Stop doing the villain's work for him.
Stop
What are
doing
you
it.
doing?
And also, my whole thing is Lil starts the game with being like, yeah, I don't know who they are. I'm like, they're all over Pandora. Their face is papered everywhere and they've taken over all these universes and you don't
Yeah.
know, you didn't bother learning about them. Like, and now it's a
What have
whole
you
thing.
been doing?
Literally. And I'm just like, Ava's the only one like actually on a mission to do something. And then she has like her growth and goes on. She's gonna be great. She's gonna be a great little thing. She's gonna find Lil and it's gonna be great. But
Yeah.
I think she's very well written and people get very bothered by it. But it's the same argument every week. Every time.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time.
It's there's a lot of stuff. So Borderlands 3 was my favorite in the franchise. And then Wonderlands came out, and then Wonderlands was my favorite in the franchise.
Really?
Oh yes, I am a big swords and sorcery kind of fantasy world fan. So
Nice.
when
Yeah.
Wonderlands was when Assault on Dragon's Keep was a thing, I was like, this is awesome. I get the best of both worlds, shooter, looter, and fantasy world. This is
Mhm.
amazing. So when Wonderlands was announced, I was like, yes, perfect. My only gripe is I wish they would have done Wonderlands as like a world evolving live service kind of thing. Because, in the tabletop RPGs is all about adding new
Yeah.
campaigns, expanding the characters, giving them more things to do. And I was talking to Noelle at TwitchCon actually, or not this last time, but the year
Yeah.
before in 22.
Yeah.
And I was like, just pass this along, please. Make a live service platform and do it with Wonderlands, not Borderlands. She's
Yeah.
like, really? You'd rather have it with Wonderlands than Borderlands? I said, yes, absolutely.
You will never please people with
Keep
Borderlands anyway.
keep Borderlands in the same formula people know and love. They'll love you for it. But put Wonderlands in this one because you could have so many things happen, and you're flexible. You can do whatever you want in that world. You
Yeah.
can bring Maya back. You can bring Jack back. You can do whatever the heck you want in Wonderlands, and no one will bat an eye at it.
That is actually very true. I say all the time, like, we need the whole argument of like, is it live service? Do PvP, like, do we keep the same? Make both. Like, it can, they're clearly trying to expand the type of offerings we have, but we need some kind of live service or, PvP kind of offering, I feel like, to keep going. Like, it's
Mhm.
just you're buying a game one time and doing this with the DLCs and then grinding that content for 10 years. Like, at some point, to have
Yeah.
any type of growth with it and not just get attached to it, we need that type of thing. But I get the hesitation of that and why Borderlands wasn't, it's just not what it was, but it also pioneered the genre. So we can really pioneer a different version of it. And it's just people are gonna be so obsessed with balance and anything else. I think you're absolutely right. I think Wonderlands would be great because the melee weapon additions and the different type of class blends and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And
So
yeah, you
many
could
cool
make up
things.
anything because it's technically in the past, but then yeah, you could bring back
Mhm.
anyone.
And people are so unfairly critical anytime a game doesn't give you 2,000 hours worth of enjoyment. Like,
My biggest gripe is when people say they like three's a bad game, but they've played 500 hours of it, they would know. And I'm like, if you played 500 hours of the goddamn game, you like the game.
you must have at least enjoyed it a little
You
bit.
like, you can decide you hated it.
Yeah.
That's fine, like whatever. But like, I can't finish a game I don't like. Like, I will try
Yeah.
very hard to finish a game I start. I'm like, is this me ADHD not focusing, or is the game just not grabbing me?
Yeah.
And there are plenty of games I've abandoned, but games I have several hundred hours in, let alone 100 hours in, generally aren't those games.
And then they love the game when it first comes out, but they didn't add every single thing that they wanted, and now they hate it.
Or like
It's like,
the popular
come
opinion, I
on.
think, shifted. I think that's a big thing too, where it's just like, I think it becomes easy to fall back into like what's nostalgic. Like, I love nostalgic stuff. I still have my PS1 and 2 here. Like,
Mhm.
I love my shit, but like 2 feels really nostalgic for people. But I swear to God, if they made exactly the same game and spat it out, they would pick it apart. It's like, I love TPS. It's one of my favorite games. People now
My favorite
romanticizing
campaign.
it. It's the best rank
Yeah.
campaign. It's best, like, it's there. It's a great campaign, and it would have had a great cycle if it got to finish everything it was trying to do.
It's
And
also the most fun to speedrun.
it is. And like, yes, the
Mhm.
like weapon acquisition is really lacking. Like, I don't love grinder farming. I wish there was more dedicated kind of farms, but like, that's such a pointless gripe for a game that I genuinely love replaying the story on and can just like vibe in and like actually feels connected. Like, I really avoid the reason I like started playing these games really under level is because I didn't care about any of the side missions when I was first playing because in two, because I didn't start with one because I didn't start with one, but going through two, it was like none of these are relevant to the main story when you look at them. It's like, go play capture the flag, go deal with this thing. And I didn't care. And at that point, you're
Yeah.
pacing on level. So at one point, that just really jumps and you have to go back. TPS, while it has that jump, everything around it still feels somewhat related to what you're doing. And it really like grounds the characters and the story in a way that none of the Borderlands games really do otherwise. Like three, I love the side missions are fun. Three's just
Mhm.
mechanically really fun to play anyway, and I defend three all the time. I freaking love it. But I think that TPS was the only one that really felt like I matter in this story, and like I'm interested in finding out this, and that could just be because I'm a Hyperion simp. But I think that there's so much to that game that people really overlook and decide now that they like the skill trees and they like this stuff. I'm like, for years I've been made fun of for TPS. People are like, TPS sucks, and I don't even consider it one of the core games. I'm like, how do you? It's
Yeah.
yeah. People
if
love to
if
yeah.
all of the games got the same post-launch content release cycle
Oh
that
yeah.
Borderlands 3 received, I think TPS would have been up there with the one of the best games in the whole cycle.
Oh
Because
yeah.
Claptastic Voyage is the
It's the
best DLC
best,
they've ever launched.
and its soundtrack slaps. It's so good.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. And like
Yeah.
this Vault Hunters are fun and like the DLC
Mhm.
Vault like everything about it feels, again, it got rid of the silent protagonist in the same way, like you're still doing shit, but like you're actually involved in a story, and it's the only one that feels like every Vault Hunter choice is canon. Like it just really builds that lore, and people will come argue me on lore and lose most of the time, but they'll come argue me on lore and they'll say something. I'm like, well, in TPS like XYZ happens, or they say this or this echo. They go, well, I haven't played TPS. I'm like, then why are you arguing this? Like, it's fact at this
Yeah.
point because you don't even listen to the echoes in two, let alone go find them in all
Mhm.
these other games. And like that's the thing with like Dark Souls and like anything like, and I think Diablo may be like this, but where you have to like go find a lot of the lore and like a lot of the story and choose to learn it basically. And like all the echoes that are going back what they're reading and writing. But three, people really criticized for not having the story that's directly in front of their face. Like they're just not
I
listening to the
love the
dialogue.
Iridian writings.
I love it. I love the inclusion of everything. Like I want to punch Typhon DeLeon
Yeah.
in the face, and so every time I have to hear his voice, I like want to lose it. But I'm sitting here. I'm like, hey, do you not have a sibling? Like, what aren't you getting about the story that's happening in front of us this whole time? Because they're like, there's no
Mhm.
growth, there's no story, there's no tension. I'm like, they're directly involving us in it, and then you can go expand more if you want, like every other game, and find it. But it has way more of a story than two ever had, and I love two with my whole
Yeah.
heart.
And the side mission echoes you get from Troy and Tyrene are
Yeah.
hilarious,
Oh
and
my god.
people
Yeah.
don't pay attention to them. So they're
No.
just like, "Oh, I hate these characters. They're not handsome Jack." I was like, "Well, no, no antagonist is really going to be handsome Jack. You love
No.
that character, and no one else needs to be." But Troy and Tyrene are great. You just haven't given them the shot. You're just like
They decided they
blindly
didn't
hating
like
on
him.
them.
Yeah.
But there's a part where you're in Promethea and you're going from one zone to another. If you sit and wait, there's a line that Tyrene delivers that makes me laugh every time, where she talks about leeching her lovers,
Yeah.
blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and no one else hears that. And every time I play it while I'm streaming, I was like, guys, listen to this, and I laugh because it's funny to me. And
Yeah.
then everyone's like, I've never even heard that line before. I was like, I know, because you guys are
You don't
rushing through
listen
the
to
game.
it. You turn off the dialogue in the game and then complain about the game not having story. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I talk about that line all the time because we've had several discussions on things Tyrene would likely enjoy in a capacity. And it's just the fun you could have with leeching is
Yeah.
a conversation. And I talk about that line a lot because I'm like, it's a throwaway like it's Bandit. She doesn't care. She's eating her little snack. She watches getting a snack. It's fine. It's different.
Yeah.
But like we're no like someone came in the other day and was like, oh, I just realized my last playthrough that Troy and Aurelia were like hooking up. I'm like, yes, like that is in front of our face here. That is here. Like, and that's part of this like tension where it's like, oh, I just wish that every single time someone's like, I wish Troy had turned on Tyrene at a point, or like they had like had a, I'm like, they did. Like this happens in the game. This is here. And whatever reason people wrote him off, like I get it. But like Jack also feels wrong in the DLC for me. Like it doesn't like we're not gonna capture lightning in a bottle twice with it. And I know, that may suck for some people, but like you gotta give him a chance because it's so true to the world of Borderlands. Like the thing I point out with Tyrene is that her very first line is talking about how the bandits welcomed her into her family, and every single
Mhm.
Borderlands game is about that found family and finding family. Even Jag, down to the wire, is like his whole thing is wanting to like be chosen, have this family, protect his family. Like that is even Moxie's like he was clingy and I have commitment things and I got rid of him kind of thing. And it's just yeah, he's crazy. Yeah, it's a power corruption power, but it's him doing anything, including losing himself, to protect the thing that he considers his family at this point. Tyrene, same thing with Troy. And it's just like TPS does it with the Vault Hunters and this like found little family thing, but also just Hyperion. And this betrayal here, the original Tales is all found family. And so for 3 to come in there, people are like, it's so out of left field. I'm like, it's what every single one of these games is about, is this corporate warfare and people going, wow, everyone ignored the bandits and, monopolized this. That was smart. And then we're dealing with the consequences of that. Like it's entirely been about this the whole time.
Mm.
I love it.
Yeah, the only thing I was sad about was the end that they chose for the twins, because I was really hoping, because I think there was a lot of doors that could have been opened had they not had that ending for them. Like I would have loved seeing, the whole Troy versus Tyrene thing
Mm-hmm.
continue to evolve, and maybe even Tyrene becomes someone that you have to begrudgingly work with near the
Yeah.
end, kind of a deal. Like, I just wish they would have let them continue on and made, even like DLCs or whatnot about them.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were great characters, and I love the villains of 3. I think they're great.
I think there's a lot of like resistance to the fact they're also just satirizing a lot of like people playing the game. And so maybe it's
Oh,
a little
yeah. I thought that
uncomfortable.
was great.
I thought it was great. I thought they
People
were right on
get
the money.
Yeah, people get sick of hearing the lines over and over for 3, 4, or 5 years, but
I get sick of
everyone
hearing
should
2
admit to
lines.
themselves that they loved it when it first came out.
Yeah, and it's yeah, absolutely interesting. And I love the theories of like Tyrene not really dead because like she would absorb its power, whatever. So her and Lilith are stuck wherever they are. Like there's plenty of rabbit holes to go down, especially I don't know if you've been listening to the Echoes of the Borderlands podcast at
Mhm.
all. But with Butcher Rose being confirmed alive, which we all were like, yeah, that's probably true. You
Yeah.
don't see a body, but like I even
He was
have my
awesome.
like Jack. I think Jack is like the SOS alive. I hope they never touch it. I hope they never think. But I very much believe that Handsome Jack that was made to be their SOS button if they ever need to be like JK doppelgangers. Let's build this in. He's alive in case it
Yeah.
gets to that
The
point.
only way I have an argument I swear weekly with Epic Energy about this. He is just so convinced that they're gonna bring Handsome Jack back because they have to. It's the only way they can save the franchise, blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, the franchise isn't in trouble. I don't know if you've
No,
been looking at their
I'm so
sales
sick of hearing people
numbers.
saying like
I don't
the
know
save
who's
the
looking at
franchise.
their sales numbers, but
Literally, did you see what Wonderlands did? People don't believe me. Well, I'm like, no, go look at the
yeah.
numbers for Wonderlands and New Tales even. Like,
It's everybody equates like active players and watched viewers on Twitch and YouTube as
yeah,
the franchise is alive or dead or doing well or whatnot. It's like you guys don't know how business works
no,
apparently.
no, they
So
really don't.
but I have this argument with him and he's like, no, they're gonna bring him back. It's like the only way they could possibly do it is if they do the whole Tales from the Borderlands
Yeah,
AI chip thing. It's like the character like and then I just have to go through the whole sequence of events with him over and over
yeah.
again. It's just a fun little argument we have, and I'm sure a lot of people in the community have the same thing. And I've always heard, oh, they're gonna bring Handsome Jack back because they're gonna milk it, blah blah blah. And so like half the players would love it and half the players would
Yeah.
hate it. And it's just,
Well, my whole thing
uh,
is I there was an interview with Damien I talk about a lot where he it was right before I think it was right before Jackpot came out when they hadn't like done like the reveal, but it's talking about the big reveal in it. And he was like they thought really long and hard about this because you don't want to jump the shark and it's this and too much of a good like he was so cautious about all of his ring everything he said in there and then nothing happened in the DLC. It was like, "Oh, he
yeah,
has loaders." That's it. And I'm like, okay, and it got me thinking, and just Tim's little like, oh, like so I like never fooled you kind of bullshit. I'm like, yeah, that could be Tim, but also that could clearly be like one of those like, oh, JK, like record scratch moments. Because when we look at the fact that like, why does he have doppelgangers if he's a low level Hyperion dude and one and or in TPS and this timeline and then the lore book's a little weird with like the lineup of stuff. They don't even talk about the Fall of New Haven. I'm like, it very easily could have been technically if they're going for it, oh, it wasn't Jack in the Vault or oh, it was this or he was reborn. Like there's so many different conspiracy theories based on what we have going where they could. And I feel like I really relate from the writing standpoint of like I've definitely delivered scripts where characters die and then if it's going in production or something and then it's like oh shit we need to maybe not people really like them or people did this like when we just didn't plan for something bigger like Borderlands 2 I think it was like Borderlands 2 was massive compared to what they were I think prepared for when looking at it and so I would be like oh shit what's our backup plan here? And yeah, we had
yeah,
Tails. Yeah, we had TPS. And I do think that they're going somewhere with this Reese thing because by having the jackhammer in the game in 3, it implies it's canon that he kept the drive and then did this. And then if Athena's the CEO over here, then we're doing friends versus foes and he's acting more
yeah.
Jack
It's
like, blah,
so
blah,
weird
blah.
on that
Like,
one.
well, like that's the thing. We could go a bunch of different ways with it. And I feel like if they're at a point where they're like, no one we make it's going to make people happy, here you go. But I really, but we're not going to get another villain like that if you don't give them a chance to really play
Mhm.
with it and find it. Like I think K6 and I were talking about how good Dragon Lord was and how he was like so close to like that kind of feeling and how much he really killed it in Wonderlands. And I think was so much of the game for me because with choice-based games or horror games or whatever for me, it really comes down to your game is as strong as your antagonist at that point. Like whatever adversary we're looking at and the stakes that I'm feeling is how attached I am to this game.
Mhm.
And it's why things like even Overwatch can still keep me going because the little interactions between people and like these little, you know, just background lore stuff happening in the meantime keeps me thinking about it and going through it. So it doesn't even have to be super overt, like here's a Last of Us kind of narrative. But I think that with Wonderlands they really are showing like, hey, we can go these places if you let us. And I hope they don't hit that button and have to unless you bring back everyone and redo it all, bring Steel, bring everyone, and have a, I guess a Mortal
Justice
Kombat
for
kind of fight.
Steel.
It's Justice for Steel. Tell
Oh
us their fucking
man.
power at least. Like,
Yeah,
my
like
God.
talk about see, and there's so many people that are like, oh, I love Borderlands 1. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I get
Why?
the nostalgia of it being the first of its kind, but I go back and play it every year because I do it during
Your
the
marathon.
marathons.
Yeah.
And every time I do, I'm like, why do I play this game? Because like mechanically, it just feels really bad. And
It's a
the
game of its
storyline,
time.
like if you compare Borderlands 1 with 2 and then 3 and Wonderlands, you're like, this is so bland. The characters
Oh,
don't feel right because they evolved everything so
yeah.
much. And then you're like, wait, I don't even hear Commander Steel until I'm 80% of the way through the game. How are
And
you
then she
gonna?
just dies in like 30
Yeah,
seconds.
it's like what?
It
So
makes, yeah.
that one, justice for Steel. We need
Justice
it.
for Steel, justice for a lot of the things in there. Because yeah, I swear to God, they just forgot they had a plot till about halfway through development. They're like, oh yeah, we need a story, and then just kind of put something in there to wrap it
Yeah,
up because
and
it, yeah,
and I think it's fine because it defined a genre and it was such a great thing at that time. Like, I don't know if you remember, like you said you had not played Skyrim, right?
no, I haven't. No,
Okay,
I have
so
a lot of
if
people
like,
around me who play it, but I just never had an Xbox at the time, and that was what it was on. And yeah,
yeah. So I think about how would I describe Borderlands to people that have never played Borderlands, never
yeah,
played Destiny, never played Warframe or The Division or any of these games in these genres. And I always think to myself, all right, if you were to play Skyrim, but with lots of guns and a lot of humor, you
hmm,
would have a game like Borderlands. And so I'm thinking, and I go back and think of like, okay, what other games were out around that time
yeah,
when Borderlands 1 came out? And I'm like, yeah, okay. In that time frame, it was a great game to have. But then once 2012 hit, it wasn't a great game anymore.
yeah. I look back at so many things I love that are I'm nostalgic, and I know I love it because I'm nostalgic, and it's why I go replay it or rewatch it. And I just firmly say I'm sure BL1 is lovely for people who played it first and when it was a
Mhm.
product of its time. But I tell people generally to avoid it if they're coming to Borderlands for the first time, unless you're like hardcore gamers. I'm like, play three, play Wonderlands, yes, play two, play TPS, like go through them. I was like, but you can. They're like, do I need to start with one? I'm like, you will not finish the series if you start with one. Like unless you're
Yeah.
hooked on it, like you're just it's so
Go,
I
go
appreciate what
watch
it did, but
Eruption
yeah.
Fang and
Yeah.
move on with your life.
Literally,
Like,
Jolt says it occasionally, like go for it. Like it's just like
yeah.
there's go have the content for it. Like I love what it did, hugs and kisses to it, but like it does
Mhm.
not it was it was a happy accident. And I'm really glad it happened, but it was, a perfect
At
storm.
least don't force yourself to go through the base game. Like the DLCs were pretty solid.
Yeah. Well,
The
yeah.
zombies were fun. General Knox was cool. You know, the Robo Evolution stuff was off the wall crazy, but it had its fun parts. Um,
I
so
was like,
like
that's more
that
generous
stuff
than people
is
normally say about it.
much better than the base game.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What got you first into I guess gaming in general, but Borderlands? Like, did you like stumble with somebody doing it or something, or were you just hardcore gaming going through
Um,
stuff at the time?
so I've played almost every Borderlands game at launch. TPS and Tails were the exceptions.
Hmm.
So Borderlands 1 had come out and I wasn't watching YouTube really
Yeah,
or obviously Twitch wasn't a thing, but um I was just kind of gaming. I've always been a gamer. So I was always big into RPGs. Anything RPG related, I was big into. So if it was Final Fantasy or with JRPGs out there, or like I said, Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls games. So when I saw like a commercial or whatnot of this crazy looking shooting RPG game, I was like, that sounds really cool. And at the time, there were also rumors of, well, not rumors, but they were actually developing this game, and I'm so mad that it never came out. I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was basically a an MMO looter shooter where you could play one of three factions, and it was like a Gears of War kind of environment where there's alien faction of these monsters, there's this human faction and whatnot, and it was just this huge massive undertaking, and it never actually happened. But for years I followed this game, and Borderlands I think came up as like a similar thing to that. And so I played it when it came out, and I played as Mordecai, and I loved it, and I thought it was so much fun. And I talked to other friends about it and found out they played it as well, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. So I played it when the game came out, and then I played it when the Ultimate Vault Hunter pack launched for the DLC, and
hmm,
that was it. Or for number two, I played number two at launch after one, and I played when the DLC for two came out, and that was kind of it. And I didn't play it for a really long time, and I was into Destiny really big. So
Yeah.
a bunch of my buddies that live around me, we all played Destiny together. They kind of um, they would that's how I found out about Twitch actually was we were playing
Really?
Destiny and someone would pull off some crazy move in a raid or something like, "Oh, you need to get your webcam and capture card and stream it on Twitch." And I was like, "What are you guys talking about?" They're like, "What? You've never heard of Twitch before?" I was like, "No, I have no clue what you're saying to me right now. I don't know those words." And so they would show me, and all of a sudden I found like all of the raid race stuff, and I was playing Hearthstone at the time, so I started watching Hearthstone players, and that's how I found Twitch. And then I just started like streaming from my Xbox connected to like my work laptop using the Xbox app as like a capture card kind of thing. And then things just kind of took off. And so I was just Destiny all the time until I want to say one of the hunts was happening because a lot of the people I was watching Destiny for, they went back to Borderlands 2. Like I'd watched Gathalion and Professor Broman and Tefty Teft. They all went back to Borderlands 2 for a while. I was like, wow, people still play this game? So like, maybe I'll give it a shot. So I went and played it again, and I found the Borderlands community on Twitch and realized how big it still was.
Yeah.
And that's when I actually like played it. Because before then it was just I gave it a run through and then I was done and I moved on kind of a
Hmm.
thing.
So you got to grind it actually with like a
Hmm.
community and like that
Yeah.
face.
And like realized how deep it was and like how cool the different builds were and actually played through with all the different characters and whatnot. And from the time that happened, I want to say 2017 was when I did that.
Hmm.
I did the first, I think that was like February 2017. And then I did the first marathon as a joke, which turned into much not a joke
Everything
in
in my
that
life
year.
starts out ironic or a joke
It
and
was such a
becomes,
bad idea. So
yeah.
I'm going to take you through how this happened because this is wild. So I'm playing Borderlands 2, and someone says, "Have you played TPS?" And I say, "No, I've never played through TPS." And they're like, "Well, if I gifted it to you, would you play it?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I would do that." And I was like, maybe it would be kind of fun if I played through TPS and Borderlands in the same day, kind of a thing. And they're like, "Oh yeah, that'd be cool." And then they're like, "Well, you need to play Tales from the Borderlands 2 then." And I was like, "What's Tales from the Borderlands?" And then I found out about that one. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I could probably do that." And then someone was like a week before the Memorial Day when I had all this time off to do it. And like, what about Borderlands 1? I was like, I don't even have Borderlands 1. I don't really have a way to play it. They're like, well, I'll gift it to you and we can play it together. I was like, okay, cool. That sounds fun. They gifted it to me, did not play it with me. So I'm solo, not knowing where anything is because it's been so long since I've played the darn game. It took me 14 hours just to get through Borderlands 1 again. It was wild. That whole stream, I played Borderlands 1, 2, pre-sequel, and Tales from the Borderlands without stopping 48 hours straight.
I no, nope,
And that
nope.
was so that was the first marathon. And then that just became a thing. For 6 years straight, I did that kind of thing. I added Borderlands 3 when Borderlands 3 hit, and then I added Wonderlands when Wonderlands hit. And by the time New Tales came around, I played New Tales. I was like, nope, definitely not adding that.
You're
But
like,
also
nope.
it was way too long. So that's when
Yeah.
I shifted it this year so for the seventh year, I shifted it away from like me myself doing this as like kind of a personal challenge and a fun thing to a community thing. I brought in more people and I was like, the focus now and for the last few years has been more St. Jude than anything else.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to make this a Borderlands community marathon and try and get people to help me do it around the clock for this week straight long thing and just raise a bunch of money for St. Jude. So this year I turned it was the first year I didn't play through all of the games and I only played the games that people voted on. So
Mm,
whichever one was leading the votes for that next session is the game that I played.
that's smart. You gotta
Yeah,
get out of that hole
was much better.
eventually. Love gaming.
Yeah.
That would kill a lot of people to do that every year, let alone once.
Yeah, I did my best to learn a lot of speedrunning tactics, which I did learn a bunch, but those guys are nuts. I don't know how they do it.
They're
The
insane.
Septics and
And
all
Dark
those
Smoke and
guys,
everyone, yeah.
dude, like they'll go through a game in 2 hours, and I'm like, at my best time is like 4.5. I'm like, I
No,
don't know how
same.
you
I
guys
used
do
to
it.
be like, I'm gonna casually speed run too. It'd take me three and a half, 4 hours, just because like I just like want to restart the story and be having fun and like be after work, and that would
Yeah.
be it. And I thought that was like what people were doing, and then I see like Deceptic's like, oh, sub 28 minutes. I'm like, I'm sorry,
He's yeah, he's taking a geared Salvadoran rocket jumping through every part of the map. You're
I
like,
can't.
this
People
is the
laugh at
coolest
me.
thing ever. I can't do that.
I can't do it. I can't grenade jump to save my life. I like literally, it's always like an ordeal. I've almost yeeted the one, I guess technically two one lives we ever attempted because I'm not a one life person. As with vocal, and he was like trying to make me do the skip and heroes pass, and I'm like, I am off host and I cannot grenade jump to save my life.
I know
Like
the
no.
one where you go around the gate without
Hmm.
having to wait there along
And
the flip
I was
side.
a
Hmm.
millisecond, like literally the closest pixel wise I could be from falling into the lava trying to do this jump, and I kept running out of the grenades, and I was like, I can't. This is more anxiety than like just
Were
going down and fight for your life. I can't do it.
so were you doing the one that you throw the grenade down and jump over the gate?
Yeah, it's the one where it's like you're waiting for
The
the gate
Mordecai
there.
brick to
Yeah.
come
And
down.
so I tried both. I tried the one where you jump up onto the ledge and then jump over the gate, or then the one where you go
Uh,
around the side. The one he wanted me to do was the one where you go around the side of the wall and back over. And I'm like, again, cool watching people do this. This is not how I played games. Like I am out. You cannot in a
yeah,
one life be like off host. I'm in Germany. Do this. And I'm like, you and Smoke have all the fun you want with this. I'm insane,
yeah.
which is every hunt. I'm like, guys,
My
we're never gonna beat them. We're
my
gonna.
favorite part about that skip was when I found out that you don't even have to go to the gate, that you can just do it on the rock side without any
Right.
grenades or anything.
It's
And I
so
was like, why did I do the grenades for so
literally.
long?
Why did I go through all that anxiety and all that everything when all you have to do is just like same.
Yeah,
I spent a good like 40 minutes. I think it was probably not that long, but it was way too long on stream once trying to do the
yeah.
wildlife skip, and it was really embarrassing and it was
It's
hilarious.
fun to learn,
It's
but
fun to
not when
learn.
you're trying to rush to get something
No.
done.
And I'm just like, guys, like this is not, but then I get too stubborn and then I'm just like, why can't I
Gotta
do
do it.
this? It's the worst. And so seeing people just like demolish these games with like these
Mhm.
expos, I'm like, I blows my mind.
Yeah.
People speedrun Portal and that blows my mind.
So the TPS speedruns, the reason why I like those ones so much is because if you use Claptrap, you can actually do
Hear
corpse
that.
flinging. So
Yeah.
you like back yourself into no corner, you launch a grenade or a rocket at your feet, and then your corpse bounces off the wall and skips to the next save station to skip a whole section of gameplay.
It's fucking
I was like, how do
insane.
people figure this out? This is the
I don't
coolest thing ever.
I just find glitches in Bloodwing because I'm a masochist and sit here and go, see, she is broken. Like, here we go. Like, people actually find useful shit in these games now. Like, I have no, like, I don't know, but it blows my mind because Borderlands doesn't really tell you a lot about its own gameplay. Like, you have to
Mm.
find out a lot either going online or just learning about it. But it's like nowhere you can like pull up a manual in the game and be like, okay, so what other things are on this card that I may not know about, and what does this mean?
Yeah.
Does this relic work with the like? It's just so many specific things that
All
I
the
have no
hidden
idea.
interactions that you don't even know about.
Literally no idea. People are like, "Why aren't you doing this?" I'm like, "Because I'm a fucking idiot and I forget about it." Like
Like,
I don't know what
how
you're
would
talking
I
about.
even know to
I
do
don't play
that? What do you
Zero. Leave me
mean?
alone. Like I just, it's like I have no idea. But
Does it bore? What's bore? What are
what's
you
bore? I
talking
chain
about?
reaction everything, baby. I break my game and crash it my own way. Let's go. Like
Yeah.
I hate it because I just, oh my god, like I love it with my heart, but my god, people are so fast at these games. I can't imagine sitting and doing it because if I committed to do a marathon of it, I get very distracted and
Hmm.
again, lore love and would go on a rant and find
Yep.
this, or I get stubborn and want to go this way, and it just no, I
Oh
don't
yeah,
think
it
that would
takes
be
a lot
healthy.
of discipline to like. You're like, all right, well, I know I need to grind for XP for the next half hour, so I guess I got to sit here in this one area and kill this thing so many times.
Yeah, no, I was gonna do a marathon for the 10-year too of just even a few of them, and then my long running save file on my play because I was streaming from my PlayStation at the time to like hook up to my Mac and
Mhm.
had this like whole insane setup. But my longest running file on there corrupted as I went into Marcus's
Oh
after Control
no.
Core. and did the thing where the loading screen just like I had to go back through the cloud and like find stuff, and thankfully was able to get one that was several hours earlier in the day, but actually like
Good.
had
Okay.
thought to back up something, because otherwise it'd been like if you and I just could not touch. It's like we're ending. That's what I'm doing. Like I'm
Yeah.
not I emotionally recovered from this file I'm attached to.
I I have not played through the BioShock games, and
Really?
I was going to do so as like a charity incentive kind of thing. And I'm playing through the first one, and I kept having save file problems. And everyone's like, "Wow, you just didn't save." It's like, okay, fine.
No,
First time,
it's broken.
sure. First time, fine. We just lost 4 hours. I'll go back. It'll be fine. So I do it again. And the same thing happens. We lose another 4 hours. And they're like, no, you definitely saved, but it would like destroy the save files that I had made. And
Mhm.
I saved extra times and it just would not do it. And finally I got to the point where it was like 2 or 3 or 4 times of that. And I was like, I'm just not gonna play it. I'm out.
That's and you've never
So I
gone back
could
to
not
them.
finish I haven't gone back yet.
Do you have the remaster or is it the
Yeah.
original?
Yeah, it was the
Really?
remastered version.
Really? That is so sad. I know mine is like my girlfriend's broke around like three-fourths of the way in and then like had to go back a chunk of hours at that point, but it's still gotten there. But it definitely has issues. Three have not had like Infinite have not had any save issues, but one is definitely
From what
a
I
little
heard, it was pretty much just exclusive to one. And
yeah.
so they're like, oh, just skip this one and go to the next one. It's like,
You
I
can't
can't.
skip
I
it.
can't
You
do
can't.
that. I can't.
I
I'm a
Bioshock One
lore
ends
guy.
up. Bioshock One is again with all the shit behind Bioshock One is a masterpiece, and it's one of those
Mhm.
games where people are always like, oh well, if you had to pick a favorite character, favorite anything, I'm like, it's a masterclass of atmosphere and build, and
Yeah.
even with a silent protagonist, you're not like you are learning so much about how you actually are impacting the story and this character, and it just does what
Mhm.
I never want to spoil it for people who haven't played it ever, but it pioneered what a bunch of games have tried to do since and have never been able to do as effectively. And I just remember the absolute betrayal I felt playing the game for the first time. And it's just fantastic. It is such a good game and it's so broken. And I always forget how broken the original was until I go and watch like a side by side of the remaster and one. I'm like, oh no, that's still yeah, this is still an improvement, but I hear that more than I would like because I try to get people to really go through and play them because I'm shocked there are
Yeah.
people who haven't had this experience yet because they're so worth it. They're so good. They're some of my favorite games ever, and that's so sad. That's really sad and
Yeah. And
infuriating on stream.
the funny thing about BioShock is I had kind of been following it from afar ever since it released. I played
Really.
the like beta demo for it and everything and
Hmm.
enjoyed it. And I just never ended up buying the game and playing through it. And then, all these years later, it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I've just never made the time to do it. And then I go to actually do it, and I have these, and I'm one of those, I don't know, I have this weird like impatience for games.
Oh yeah,
I went and tried to play Sekiro, and
yeah.
it didn't have windowed full screen or like an FOV slider and like all these little things that are such good quality of life
Hmm.
things. And I was like, I'm not playing this. I can't do it. And
Yeah.
then like the controller I was trying to use wouldn't work and it wouldn't let me do it. And I was trying to play it on keyboard and mouse. And finally, my buddy Frost is a big fan of
Oh, I
that
love
game. He's
Frost.
like
Yeah,
speedrunning
yeah.
it. So he's in the call with me, and I'm like, dude, what is the problem with this game? He's like, just install a mod. I was like, if I have to install a mod just to play a game, I'm not gonna play the game. You don't
Especially if you're not
understand.
already into the game. Like that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
once that hyperfixation hits, there's a lot that I would probably figure out to play a game and too much. Like I've definitely taken when we go to cons, like I'll bring a shitty laptop and then this and my
Hmm.
PS5 controller and then try to remote play on hotel Wi-Fi. It's just Borderlands casually by myself because I'm like wanting to like keep playing. I'm like I do it every
Yeah.
day though. It's weird. And now I'm like fuck that. No. And we have things like the deck and the Switch and stuff like that that make it a little easier. But no, if I'm trying to get into a game and there are barriers of that, like I get motion sick in a lot of games. I used to not at all. And I don't know if it's the older I get, like you hit 30 and just like suddenly like everything just gets a little bit more like, but
Yeah. No, that's a real thing.
it's a thing, and I already got migraines before. But
Yeah.
even Wonderlands sometimes will make me like I played it on a console. I haven't played it on PC yet, and so I need to go back and like do like I'm gonna do the Chaos Grind eventually. But like when I haven't played it in a bit, and I go on, like sometimes I'm just a little okay, this isn't the day for this, or I didn't prep for this.
Mhm.
When games don't have a FOV slider, or if they're very like glitchy, or like you can't turn off like a HUD shake or something like that, I'm like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
We need to get
I'm
going. And yeah,
I'm too high maintenance when it comes to that. Like, give me
yeah.
the right volume sliders.
Give me
Give me the right.
accessibility
Oh
options.
my
I don't care if you
gosh.
make me sit through a 15-minute cutscene at the beginning. Great, set the stage.
Yeah.
I need accessibility options. I want captions
Yeah.
on, and I want to be able to turn down sound effects, and that's that's where I'm
And
at.
if every game could implement the cyberpunk style of skipping dialogue, it would be fantastic.
No, seriously, because I think about that all the
Oh,
time where
so
I'm like,
good.
people are like, oh, I delete dialogue from the games, or I do this, or I just want to fully skip
Mhm.
the cutscene. I'm like, or you just want to skip like little parts of it, or
Yeah.
little, like, just speed it up. Like when I was restarted for Liberty, my original V was a male V. And
Mhm.
I really think the female V is just such a better voice actor at that point where it's just like more interesting. But I was in Corpo and I was like, I
I
don't,
did the female corporal as well.
oh my god, hell yeah.
Heck yeah.
And so I was just sitting there going like, okay, like just restart, do a female V for Phantom Liberty. You can go back to your male V later and do that with him. And it just like still was like, but that's my V, and I just like had all this time on him. So now I have both going at once. And I
Yeah.
kept going back and forth, but I just replayed the first act and then decided to go remake female V. And I was like, fuck. So I'm just like skipping through all the
Mhm.
dialogue specific parts. And it didn't bother me because I was able to do that and still
It's
replay
super
it.
quick. It feels
Yeah.
good.
And I never
Yeah.
would do that in games. I'm always like, no, I don't mind rehearing the same cutscene usually. Like if it's the reopening of a DLC, I'm like, okay, like shut the fuck up. Like I'm here for
Yeah.
farming, leave me alone. But Cyberpunk does it in such a still immersive way that doesn't feel like it's just like now you're loading
Mhm.
out and you're going over here and yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think when people hear Borderlands players want dialogue skips, it's like they think they're asking to never hear dialogue in a game ever
Yeah.
again. It's like no, we've just gone through the game 90 times.
Hmm.
And we don't need that same dialogue of Roland and Lilith having this conversation with Angel in
And then
Sanctuary for 5 minutes.
you can't click on the next mission if you want to go to something else until they're done
Yeah.
talking. So then you either have to travel or save quit and then come back and it's a whole thing. And it's like, yeah, it takes 4 seconds at that point. But I don't want to do that. And so
Yeah.
instead I just heckle and vendor farm and we'll sit there and move on with my life.
Yeah.
But
That's why if you go look at like the speed run routing, it's like, okay, save quit 76 times during the playthrough, and then
yeah.
here's where you do every single one.
You spend more time
Sometimes you have to
save
save
quitting.
quit
Yeah.
four times.
It's insane. Yeah, anytime I play with vocal at all, like even right now off stream, we're playing through Far Cry 5 for the fuck of it.
Mm.
And he'll talk about like when him and Smoke are working out their one lives since it's New Zealand and like Germany. They're always like, okay, well, how do we do this on like if the shift is network is down and we have this server and then save quit for this,
Oh,
so they could never do a speed
isn't
run at
that
that point. But
crazy?
like one life alone, I'm like, how do you if someone has a couple dots, like you're taking this seriously if you still have dots linger on that map, or how off host is that? That sounds insane. And yet when we're playing Far Cry and I'm sitting here screaming at the Unity launcher for just sucking and like keeping the game open or doing something, I won't even be through something and he'll just immediately save quit. I'm like, what? We have to now relaunch and like go back into reconnect and all this. And he's like, I just heard this scene. And I'm like, just sit through it. You can still look around. You can do it. We just got kidnapped. Just give it a second. Like he's just like so like no, I'll save, quit, and go. I'm like, you were such a Borderlands player where we are
Yeah.
in a fucking. What's the point of Far Cry if you're not getting any of that?
Yeah, you
So
gotta
I
go
just-
fast.
Yeah, gotta go fast. And so I'm like, it takes longer to reconnect now to get me back in the game
Mhm.
from the server than I would have to sit through a cutscene. And now I
Yeah.
load in just with like my hands like this and like
Oh my
slowly will
gosh.
form as a person. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, Moxie's got that brain so bad too, where we'll be playing a game like Path of Exile, which is another
Yeah.
ARPG like Diablo.
Yeah, Wabaku's
And
really into it. Yeah.
yeah, so when the new league starts, we start up at the same time, but he gets caught in like whatever new game thing that he gets caught into where he can't launch it or something. And so I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll just, go do my thing and then join you afterwards and we'll redo that stuff with you.
Mhm.
And so we do that. And, Epic and I join Moxie and we're going through. And then he, instead of waiting for Epic or waiting for everybody, he just goes and goes. And that in that game, if you're not in the map when the thing happens, you don't get credit for it. Not only that, but there's a timer of when you can do it again.
Oh, beautiful.
So he
He just sandbags everyone.
So yeah, he's basically just going mission after mission after mission while we're held back at that one point. And we're like, Moxie, what are you doing? And at that point, we just can't do the campaign progress anymore. And he won't wait. So it's like, all right, well, we'll just go into our own game, I guess.
Gotta go fast. It's like I
Gotta go
swear something
fast.
takes over. It's like this is what I'm doing now, like every single time. And
Yeah.
yeah, I can't
It's
blame
just
them when they're used
blinders.
to yeah, seriously. But when you're used to efficiency at that point, I sit here and well bullshit and do whatever, and I probably should be more efficient. But my God, it is intimidating. I'm like I can't imagine my old like little laptop having to save quit after everything, or like my PS4
Yeah.
days. That loading into anything
Oh,
on
on console would
PS4,
be awful.
awful. No,
I played almost all my hours on first Xbox and then PlayStation. And by the time I had gotten my PC, like I did do a bunch of Borderlands 2, but it was almost time for Borderlands 3 anyway.
yeah.
So the pain of safe quitting to farm or for
Read
anything
only
dialogue skipping
farming,
related.
dialogue skipping, anything. And like when I got
Yeah.
my five, that was the thing. I remember loading into I think it was Three Horns for the first time. I was like, oh, this was so fast. Oh my God, Claptrap only went across the screen like once. Oh my God, this is amazing. And
Mm.
so like I would notice that, but even still, I remember read only farming on the five once on stream. And it was Sandhawk, and I hate Sandhawk, so I didn't even want to do it anyway. But Jolt's like come in for something, and he was like, "Oh, you could like save quit like that." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm on console." And he's like, "Why? Why?
Yeah.
Why?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it's gonna
Jolts is
take."
so funny with that.
Yeah,
You
I'm
can't
like,
fathom it.
"No, not at all." I'm like, "It's to go slow. It's fine. It's fine." And so, I so much I feel like I missed out on like those habits because I didn't have yeah, like a PC to do that. And so my little laptop couldn't even play Phasmophobia that well when it came out. Like I'd be playing and it would randomly kick me out of lobbies, which I love, but like and
Yeah.
played so much of it, but it could handle Among Us and that was about it. And even then that with Discord would be like chill. Like where we're doing too much.
Yeah. You're basically just like, oh, I'm gonna join Discord on my phone, I guess.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. And so like when Phasmo very first came out, I remember being like, okay, like it's gonna be us and we're gonna be sitting here and we have proximity chat, it'll be fine. And then randomly it would be like you're walking like doing the lag into a wall and then it would
Hmm.
fully yeet me, but then they would still see me in the game anyway. And so I would just
Yeah.
be like, they can't even okay, well, I'm now just stuck in this weird little loop and my computer's freaking out. I'm like, this is like the most basic game I could try to do. So I tried to open BL3 once and it was like, what the hell do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Even
I
when you
was,
turn all the settings down, it's
oh yeah,
still
nothing. Which is why I'm surprised it runs so well on Switch actually on Twitch
yeah.
on Switch. Claptrap takes a minute, probably a full minute to get the game going, but then once it does, the actual load into the maps aren't that long, which I'm always
Mhm.
impressed by because my PS4 struggled with it a little bit, but the five handled it great, and now I'm spoiled by the PC. But even that, I can't handle the patience of save quitting
Yep.
when it spits me the wrong point of a map too. Like that's the thing I do. I'm like, you're trusting a lot of things in this moment to like go find a car and go do this, or it's gonna like check that you're at this point. I'm like, no, I will forget that it's not gonna yeet me in that end of the map, and I'm gonna be here like a bad mall kind of thing, and I'll just be
Mhm.
like, nope, nope, we're not doing this. Where if this isn't muscle memory, I'm gonna fuck it up more.
Yeah, and that's another thing with Borderlands 3 that I love so much is just being able to fast
Fast
travel from
travel.
wherever you want. And oh my god,
Seriously, people talk
I
about
was
a two remaster. I'm like, that's all I would need. I like all we need. I don't even
yeah, it
care.
would be like you put in the movement and that fast travel stuff into 2, and you've
Yeah,
got like a really fun experience when the people that put mods in the game just to make like your movement better,
yeah.
like someone added double jumping and dashing into Borderlands 2 is like that
Oh
alone
my
made it
god.
so much more fun to play.
Double jumping would be. I've never looked for mods. I don't know why I say I don't know there was one for that. That's fucking amazing. Because the amount of times, especially on Maya, I'd see like I'd be co-oping with like a Gage, and she'd be like hopping up doing her thing, and I'm sitting here. I'm like, do I jump less? Like, why can't I do anything? Like, I just could not figure out the parkour of her for so long, and I
Yeah.
still struggle with it. That's
Mm.
amazing.
Yeah, they
Amazing.
made like a Doom Eternal mod where you
Oh,
can do like the
sick.
Doom dash in Borderlands 2, and it was really cool.
I know there used to be a mod where you could like play as like Lilith face walking like Lilith the one powers as Maya, but I don't think it works anymore unless I saw. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's some really creative ones that I'm like, yeah, like I would love to add all this to the game. But honestly, anything, it's the legendary beams that three added and the little sound alert and the fast shot from anywhere. All I need. All I need.
Yeah.
I will don't even give me mantling and sliding. Like whatever, I'll figure it out. Like it's just you have to redo maps. I get it. Let me fast
Yeah.
travel. Do not make me haul my ass back because someone blew up my car. Like I'm not gonna do it.
Mm.
Iridium
Yeah,
Blight.
I'm so spoiled on like I love movement and smooth
Oh
interactions.
yeah.
Like I'm a big Apex Legends fan and Titanfall 2 because it has some of the greatest movement any
Hmm.
shooter's got in any game. And now every time I play a first person shooter, I'm just like, give me Apex movement
Yeah.
and you've got me.
I get that. Apex is one I've like tried to get into and I think too intimidated by. And I really want to because I've gone so like I'm such a competitive person by nature. And I genuinely like I just did the whole like LA actor roommate thousand things where I just like didn't have
Mm,
that kind of like setup to be able to like I'm gonna take over the space and like learn how to do this. So when I started living alone and got like my PlayStation and finally got connected. Because I had my PS3 and 4, but it was just mostly my roommates using it for Netflix, and then occasionally I get to game on it. And
yeah.
so when I really set up shop and got to do stuff, I slowly got into stuff that didn't really have direct comms on that, or like didn't have good crossplay stuff because I was
Mm,
like toeing the water and because I knew people have been doing these games for years and years and years, so I didn't like hop into like Call of Duty or anything like that because I was just like, this
yeah.
hasn't been something that has been available to me. And I feel like I'm really bad at letting myself be bad at something new. If I'm bad at something I love, I don't give a fuck. I say all the time I'm bad at Borderlands. It's great. I love it. I'm bad. Like great.
Yeah.
But when it's new and then I'm responsible for other people's like thing in here, I know Apex recently introduced this, but like I finally was like, let me brave it on the five. And I go in and then I never did because the fact that there's not even like a test run, like your first thing you're just into a live lobby,
Yeah.
I was like,
Hmm.
I genuinely do not know the UI or like what the shield is, and
Yeah.
I can't. And so I need to rip off the band-aid because I have so many friends who like are really competitive about it, and I'm like, I if I get sucked into something, I will sit here and grind and get pissed off and do the thing and love it. But I've never
Probably what you did with Dead by Daylight for those thousands of hours,
for
right?
no reason, especially because they don't even
Yeah.
like show your fucking level. Like Erie One doesn't mean anything anymore, and they don't. It's not even a thing.
Yep.
And so I'm like, the first time I hit Erie One, I was like, yes, I did it, and then I was like, okay, well, like it's gonna reset in a few days and I get more blood points. Yay. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing to it. And so with Apex, I'm just like, I love the concept. I love the little bits of lore I see. I love the art style. Like the movement was fun when I was in like the shooting range or whatever. But I'm like,
Mhm.
I know one, yes, being a woman on comms is always a thing, and I have no problem with it usually. But when it's
Unfortunately.
it
Mhm.
is, and like just people on comms in general. And again, I deal with this shit in Overwatch now, but it's just like rip off the band-aid, it's fine. But I
Mhm.
know I'm gonna be garbage. Like when I first tried to play Valorant, I was like,
Oh,
okay, like this
another
is
one.
this is unforgiving.
I
Yeah.
see you are a fellow iceberg fan, where
Yes.
the games look very simple at first, but they're
Yes.
very technical and a lot
Hmm.
of learning curve that
I
you find
literally
out.
you just that's why like Overwatch, I think because I just
Mhm.
Valorant, I was like, oh, I really want to love this. And then I would load in and then immediately die doing nothing. And then sit there and sit in the fact that I died that quickly and with
Oh yeah.
zero help. And I like the challenge of being able to be like, okay, well, like let's figure out this new puzzle of what could fit here. And Apex has a lot of the mechanics that I think I would really enjoy, but I can't handle the fact that if I went in, got over it, ranked really bad, whatever, moved on with my life, and like still loved it and played it, great. I wouldn't care anymore. I could talk shit, I could do the thing, move on. But it's that first little thing where I'm like, no, I need to be good. I need the pat on the head. I'm so sorry. Don't let me sandbag your team. I don't know where it's sorting me. It's gonna be my fault. Babysit me, and it's so
Yeah,
hard.
you need to have that friend that's willing to like get on the Smurf account
Yeah,
with you so
that's
the
the thing.
matchmaking is like from scratch because if someone experienced drags you into their lobbies, you're
I'm
not gonna have a fun time.
no,
I
and that's
did
the
that
thing.
with my buddy Depriesticles and it was punishing, but he was like, this is fun, I like this game, I want to get better at it. I was like, well, okay,
Go have
let's
fun.
throw you into the deep end then, I guess.
And that's the thing. I like being thrown in the deep end, but I need to know remotely how to swim at first. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, yeah. Like the
yeah.
concept of swimming, great. But I look at Apex on the outside, I'm like, pretty. And then I open the menu, I'm like, do I run out
There's
of
so
ammo? I'm
much.
assuming yes. Where do I go? What's the difference between these two things I just picked up?
Mhm.
I can't tell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because even if you learn, like, okay, what do the guns do and what do the legends do? Then there's the, okay, I have to perfect my aim.
Yeah.
And then I also have to perfect the movement because there's so much movement tech in that game that if you're the best shooter and you know how to use your legend really well, you'll still lose because someone else knows how to move better and they've got the same other skills that you have.
I mean, that's true with DBD too. It was always like, could you loop, can you
Yeah.
dodge? Like, that's, I suck at it on PC. I don't know why. And that's probably honestly why I don't want to do a grind. The turning around, like learning mouse and
The
keyboard for
panning the
that.
camera.
Because looking behind me on
Mhm.
console, I became a god at a point where I'd be like, let's loop a nurse, let's go, this is fun. And then the moment I got to PC, I'm like, I don't know how to turn a camera. And suddenly I'm just like looking behind me,
That's
running into the shack and just dying.
that's the first thing when we'll go into the training games, and that's the first thing I force a new person to do. I
Oh,
say,
yeah.
just practice this thing.
I
Like
got
if you
motion
don't
sick
learn
trying to do that.
anything else, do this one thing.
I walked up and down as Dwight so many times in that little tutorial thing, trying to just like whip the camera or trying to like moonwalk anything to be like, okay, can I like
Yeah.
be a little sweaty on here? And I need to probably go back and try now that I'm just like more used. It's been a year on mouse and keyboard. I probably could
Mm.
do it a little better, but even still, I don't do a lot of third person on PC at that point. Like I'm doing Alan Wake right now, but it's still that little over the shoulder thing.
Yeah.
But I grew up on, Sega, PlayStation, all that stuff. And so, yeah, I was really competitive at SSX Tricky and stuff. I don't trust me to not feel personally responsible by taking someone's rank because the game decides to throw me and shit, and then I will sit there and never touch it again. It's
Yeah, no,
brutal.
that makes a lot of sense.
It's brutal.
That's
But
funny.
why Borderlands needs a PvP in any world of it? Because then it will be new and we'll all suck at first, and then I'll very quickly fall bad in there. But then I would be knowing what I'm doing a little bit more and it'd be fun. That's all I need. That's all I need. Selfishly, it's not a big ask. Just a multi-million-dollar project and a bunch of
Yeah,
sweaty gamers.
easy.
It's fine. It's not a big deal.
In Diablo 4, they have a couple PvP designated areas that people can go into, and there's always people in chats who are like, "Oh, I wish they would do more with the PvP." I was like, honestly, it's exactly what I need. Like, yeah, you can go in
Yeah.
there and dink around a bunch, but all the builds and everything are so overpowered that
Hmm.
whoever has their overpowered build able to hit someone first is gonna win every time.
Yeah. How did
And
you
that's
feel
what feels
about
like
Arms
Borderlands
Race?
would be.
Yeah.
I like Arms Race.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it. I played it a lot when it first launched, and even when people had their issues with
Their
it.
drama
The
with
only
it, yeah.
problem I had with it was I really wanted them to go into different maps and different
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah, I feel like
obviously different loot sources
the
would be
lack
great
of
too.
expansion on that. But I feel like between that, Guardians and Malawan Takedown and stuff, there's a lot of foundation there for that type of game mode. I don't know. I would like to see more expansion of that, but every time people are like, we just need this kind of PvP, but this, I'm like, you mean that's what Arms Race was, and everyone bitched about, and then won't go do what you're
Yeah.
talking about. It's Arms Race. It's the foundation of it there, and yeah,
I thought Arms Race was great. Like Borderlands 3 had the best additions to the game. That's why I wish every game in their franchise would receive that same level of love every time,
Oh, yeah.
because they did such a good job with 3. I love the takedowns. I thought they were awesome. Even the proving grounds, I thought was a really cool thing. And one thing I wanted really bad, and I posted this big Reddit article, one of the only times I ever got on Reddit, was about how I thought that it would be really cool to support leaderboards in Borderlands 3 because you could do it with the proving grounds. We had the Twitch rivals at TwitchCon and
Yeah.
GCX when Borderlands 3 was launching, and they had everyone playing the proving grounds to do like a time trials thing. And I was like, this is such a cool thing to do. And if you did it the right way, you could totally have like seasonal leaderboards that people would come back and grind for just for fun.
You're totally right. They absolutely would. And it's like, yeah, again, feels like a simple, like, why wouldn't you do that? But I genuinely think that's a
Yeah.
smart way to keep the health of a game. And
Mhm.
yeah, because you have to say, really, we're creatures of habit at this point, and I think the community has proven a lot of like we're very stuck in our nostalgia with a lot. So having that type of game still available, but expanding that, I think is the only way to really bring in new players. Because I tell people about Borderlands, and if they don't play, any type of FPS or whatever it is, like you were saying, it's really hard to explain it to people sometimes. And even if you can have that, it's just the concept of like grinding. Like I remember even when I first started farming, my girlfriend who played 500 hours of just story in Borderlands 3, like never farmed anything, was like, what is there to do? But like, what are you doing? Like, what do you mean parts and stuff? Like, it's just so foreign because it doesn't really like have, hey, here's the stuff you can improve and here's this. So there's no external validation for that grind in that way.
Yeah, they don't understand the number go up.
Yeah, exactly.
Dopamine
Number
that
go up.
hits.
And just, I would love them to take away the level cap. That'd be great. Or like to go back to 72. That'd be great. Um, but that's
I
about it.
I see. I'm on a different end of the spectrum than I think most Borderlands gamers, where they love the go somewhere, summon a boss, kill boss, reset, do it again, and just do
Yeah.
that over and over and over. I like the more takedown version. Like I
Yeah.
love Destiny raids. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Destiny raids and doing them for the first time ever with a group and figuring out all the puzzles and everything. Some of my favorite moments in gaming ever, and I absolutely love it. And I do wish that they would have that kind of thing. Like what I really wanted in Borderlands 3 was a raid on the Siren Temple. And I thought it would be so
Ooh.
cool if you had like a hidden area on Athenas where you gain like a Tanis tells you there's some door that you can
Yeah.
access, and you go down, and all of a sudden, boom, you have this raid on the Siren Temple, and the seventh one they're warning you about is there, or something of that. Like they
Yeah.
could do whatever they want, but I thought it'd be so cool to have like a takedown kind of thing. And then they came out with the Guardian takedown. I was like, I guess this will
It's
suffice for
it's in the
now.
vein. Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah.
I was like, I know I wanna throw a couple questions at you, that you don't have to remotely think about. But I would love to know what you could pick if you had one thing in Borderlands 4 that everyone always talks about. Everyone's very passionate about this online and always doing their thing. And it's a question that I think everyone who has ever touched a Borderlands game will get asked in their chat at some point. But at the moment, is there something that you're really like, this is what I'm like really, really hoping for? Even if it's just like they ignored this part of the lore or they completely revamp guns or something like that.
Yeah, picking one thing is super tough because
It
it's a kind of a
sucks.
combination of things that I really want. Like I always want good game mechanics. I always want
Yeah.
good fast movement. I would love wall running. The
Oh,
double
that'd be
jumping is
sick.
amazing. Mantling, sliding, all of those things I would absolutely love. So that I'm just gonna say is like my wish for any shooter in
Hmm.
general. Aside from that, I obviously want a really good story. I love the Siren lore and I love the story behind it. I don't want another generic madman's trying to gain power, take over the world, and we have to stop him kind of a thing. I would just love like actual good um, characters get developed, good stories. So that's
Yeah.
always really important to me because that's what's going to hook me and make me want to play the game in the first place. And then from there, just anything that you can do to help replayability in the game, whether it's adding that dialogue skip or that
Yeah.
cutscene skipper or anything of that nature really is going to be awesome in that sense.
I love that. What's your favorite bit of the lore? Like, do you have like, is it the Siren lore? Is it just like
Oh yeah.
the universe of vaults or whatever?
Yeah, when they came out with the Iridian writing, where you found out the Iridians were automatons created by that race, that you're like, oh, they're not these weird aliens as the race, and you find out they were more like the sirens and whatnot, and like all of the different like just weird random facts you find out about the sirens from the Iridian writings was my favorite part of Three's story in general.
I love that. Yeah, no, the Siren lore is absolutely something that I think people like take for granted a little bit. Like it's so unique to Borderlands and so much potential there. So many different ways to go with that. Especially if we have Lilith, potentially I think she's probably the Iridian homeworld, like actual homeworld wherever she took Elpis. And so I'm really hoping we get a chunk of that. But it's so unique to Borderlands, and I do really hope they take advantage of kind of how they've set themselves up for a lot of expansion on it, even with new
Yeah.
tales.
And it would be really cool to see like all 6/7 of the siren powers
Yeah,
happen in the game, where like you actually see everybody that has it and what they are all in one place at one time, kind of a deal.
that'd be super sick. That'd be super sick.
That'd be really
Love
cool.
that. I'm going to be thinking about that one for a while now. Okay. The 5 games I talk about, I always throw at people, not even necessarily your 5 favorite games, which
Mhm.
helps, but just if you had to put in a time capsule basically for just like someone who's never played a video game and then be like, these 5 best games go. Because a lot of people will be like, they'll make an argument for Tetris that's really passionate, or they'll, throw in, nope, always these 5, this is where it goes. But do you have
Okay.
top of your head?
This is interesting because you changed it a little bit from what I would expect. So I was originally thinking, oh, top 5 games like to recommend to someone. I would stick with franchises, like I say, oh, Destiny, Borderlands.
Yeah.
But if it's putting them in a time capsule, you have to actually take the individual game and put it in there, right? So,
You can cheat a little, but yeah, that's the concept. I think K6 cheated.
I would put, whatever at the time is the best of the Borderlands franchise. So my favorite would probably be Borderlands 3. But you could substitute whichever one each person likes the best. I guess Borderlands 2 is a lot of people's favorite.
So diplomatic.
Uh,
Say fuck 2, put 3 in there. It's fine.
I wouldn't put 2 in there. It's a
I don't
little
put 2 in
outdated
mine.
there.
I don't put 2 in mine.
Yeah, I like 3. That's mine. Since they didn't give the post-launch love to Wonderlands like they did
Mhm.
3 is probably my favorite. But had they done so, Wonderlands would have easily outpaced 3 as my favorite by far.
Makes sense.
So Borderlands 3, Destiny 2, those are probably like 2 of my games that I've played the most and I absolutely love. I would also throw Hades in there. Absolutely. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I would throw in, and Super Mario World.
Amazing.
That's already 5, isn't it? Shoot.
It is.
I would try to fit Rocket League in there somewhere.
Ooh, really?
Oh yeah, I think Rocket League is the simplest, most fun, but also the most mechanically difficult games that I've ever played.
It is one of the only games I've never played it. I own it. I've never played it, but is the consistent game that if I have Steam remotely open on any device, I will see multiple times a day is now playing Rocket League. Is now playing Rocket League. Like everyone.
Yeah,
It's
it
amazing.
is. It is the game where you could put 1,000 hours into it and feel terrible compared to other people playing. It's insane. Like Frost and Moxie play a ton of Rocket League, and I play because of them.
Yeah.
Frost got me into it, and me, Frost, and Moxie play a lot. They have 2,000-3,000 hours into the game. I'm like 1,500 or so, and I'm so far behind where they're at still, and it's so
Amazing.
frustrating.
See, again, too
And,
intimidated.
man,
But I'm gonna secretly try it.
You would have to you have to dedicate a ton of hours to it. You have to watch a ton of YouTube on how things work and
Get a PhD.
It's crazy.
Have a mentor. Get sponsored.
It legitimately is like, if you understand physics, you'll probably be better at the game, as wild as that sounds.
I'm not a math gay. I am not. I am unfortunately a history writing nerd, and I wish I had the math gene, but I did not.
It's one of those games where the esports, the best in the world, are the 15, 16-year-olds because they just naturally pick it up in their young brains versus the old heads that are 19 years old and having to retire because they can't compete anymore.
It's really sad.
Isn't that weird? The 19-year-olds are the senior citizens
nothing
of Rocket
has
League.
Made me feel more aged than getting into esports and looking at everyone aging out who is like, it's like I'm looking at like competitive marching band where everyone ages out at like 19, 20, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's okay.
That's why I love seeing like some of the Valorant players and some of the Apex players. They're actually like in their late 20s. I'm like, yes, at least
late 20s.
Somewhat closer.
Like amazing. No, I feel like that because everyone, I feel like most people I engage with, like clearly like there's the outliers like K6 and stuff, but like engage with in the fam will be, I'm lucky if they're close to my age. Usually they're like pull out of pocket like, oh yeah, like I just turned 22, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Like I can't.
Oh yeah,
I love them.
The funniest part of that was TwitchCon 2018, 2019. Tweety Expert was with us.
Yeah,
and she wasn't 21 at the time, and the nightlife was go pub crawling kind of a thing. And we had to sneak her into places because she wasn't old enough to be there.
San Diego's place to do that, man.
The weirdest feeling. Like I'm 38 now.
Yeah.
At the time I was like 35, 36. My younger sister, who's 10 years younger than me, is Tweety's same age.
Oh my god.
And so it was just like hanging out with my younger sister.
Amazing.
And it was just like the weirdest feeling because and it's like that a lot with gamers and streamers in general, because everyone's, low, like early 20s.
Everyone's babies. Yeah. And so people will be like, oh, your chat is so like, whatever. I'm like, no, they all look at me as like a sister, like an annoying older sister, because they're all like 19, and then they're just like bully me, and it's fine. And it's great. But nothing will give me psychic damage. Like one of them being like, oh yeah, that was my 5th grade song. I'm like, we're not talking about that. That was my senior year song. We're not, nope. We're not, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, whenever someone pops in chat and they're, they actually are older than you, and they say something to the effect of, past your, like, when you hit 40, da da da, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're actually older. Thank you.
Dude,
This is
literally
surprising.
Pascaroni and some old guy in Hawaii were at TwitchCon. I was like hugging them, but then like Frost and BZK, like BZK said something out of pocket. I was just like, nope, 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 nope. We're not. It's fine. I'm gonna ride the baby face for a second, but I can't. Nope. Can't think
Yeah.
about my mortality fastly approaching like a little gamer. But
Yeah, it's a fun thing. Like, I have so I have two kiddos, one's 14 and one's 10. And it's funny to see, like, they're at the point where they're watching YouTube videos a bunch, and they'll come across a video of someone I know. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that guy, I met that guy. And there's like, what, really? And I start to think about it like, oh, I actually have people coming up in the chat that are about your age. This is weird to think about.
it's jarring. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't have kids, but I have nephews, and then I was a nanny for like 10 years. And so those kids I got really into a lot of like similar interests, but now they're much, much older, and it's a similar kind of vibe where I'm like, huh, okay, I don't know when this happened, but I was 21 when I was watching you, and that was a
Mhm.
decade ago, so that would make sense that okay.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a cool phenomenon though, because I remember when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, my family, that, like, my older brother's 9 years older and 10 years older for the two that I have. And so
Mine's seven,
everyone's just
yeah.
like
Yeah.
way older than I am. So all the stuff that I'm experiencing and all the slang and the trendy things and everything that's happening in the world, they have no clue about. No clue. They have no empathy for it. They have no patience for it. They didn't know anything going on. So I was just like isolated in my own little world. And now, like, I'm kind of tuned in to the social media of all of the people that are way younger than I am.
Yeah.
So it's actually a point that I can relate to my kids way more, and I can show them
You're
the
the cool
funny new,
dad.
the funny new meme video that they haven't seen before, instead of them showing me all the time.
That's the way to do
It's
it. So
that's a kind of a twist on it, where like, I don't feel ancient. I actually feel like this is not so bad.
my boss will just come to me and be like, "My nephew said I can't say cringe anymore. What's the new word for it?" And I like will have to be like, "Okay, now here's the thing.
Like, all
Here's
right,
the thing."
bet.
Yeah, I'm like, cool. And literally, I'm now saying slaps unironically, and I'm like, when did this happen? And that's outdated now. So I just catch
Yeah.
myself catching up way too late, and I hear it, and I'm like, I'm gonna be this millennial till I die, apparently, and
Yeah.
there's not. Yeah.
What was the last one you heard where you're like, nope, I'm just not
Oh
doing that
god, it
one.
was some. I mean, Chugi was a big one. I still don't know if that
Okay.
was made to like troll me, like troll millennials, and be like, this isn't actually a thing we say, or this is the thing we. I genuinely do not know. There was some.
Yeah.
Oh god, out of pocket. Something. Someone said something in chat that I cannot remember for the life of me what it was, and I was just like, that isn't slang now. Like I'm not. We're not catching that boat. We're not doing that. And I always love it's the any combination I would say I would probably reject is the if you ever see like the TikTok videos of the Gen Z talking to like doctors or something like that. It's like, on God, like pretty low, like whatever it is. And I'm just no, I can't even think of a specific word, but what's one of the weird ones you've heard? Because I think I've blocked them all out from trauma at this point.
Um, the bop for me is one, like, everyone's like, oh, that's a bop. It's like, I get it. I
Mhm.
understand why you're saying it, and I'm just not gonna use it. It's
Yeah.
not my style. Um,
Cap is oh yeah, I don't
the
do cap.
yeah, the
No
cap
cap or
thing
cap. Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah, no.
great. What was some of the latest ones? Even like you just mentioned cringe. Like, that one was rough for me. Like, I didn't mind hearing it, but I couldn't say it. If I
Yeah.
ever would say it, I would feel so strange having those words come out of me.
It wouldn't feel authentic to me. Like I feel
No.
like it's me going, how you do, fellow kids, at that point. And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
I'd rather be not cool than be that kind of not cool. Like
Yeah.
I have to earn
Uh,
that energy, and I don't have that energy. Just like I don't have no
mm,
cap energy. Like I feel like it'd be like me going, "Oh, no cap," and it just doesn't
yeah,
sound like a sentence that I should say.
yeah. Conversely, what's the ones that you heard for the first time and loved and wanted to use immediately?
Oh God, see, my brain flipped that where I'm like on fleek. I'm like I hate on fleek, but like it's I
I
get
never used
it.
that one either.
I don't use it. Honestly, now that I've said it 18 times, slaps is just in my head. But that one, I was like,
Yeah,
that's a
that's
thing.
good.
I'm now drawing a blank on all young people slang at this point, and I feel like I've now embraced the dab a little bit, which is a problem because it's not a real
Uh-oh.
dab. It's not a real dab. It's like if
Uh-oh.
I die again to the same boss, I just kind of like sad dab, and it's just kind of like it's an emotion. You know what I mean? Like it's still a ironic dab, but people don't appreciate it. But that one I kind of was like, that's mine now.
Yeah.
I say it's not remotely good, but like serving cunt or the shit fucks are the two that I'm like that vibes in my brain. I know exactly what that means, but I cannot say that
Yeah,
work. Be
yeah.
like, oh, you're serving cunt today. Like I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
listen. So I have to do the line a little bit on those, but those are
So
yeah.
I have ones that I don't know if they're just more if it's just funnier when I hear it in a British accent or not, but I watch on like TikTok James and Fuhad.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen their videos, but they're just a podcast. They just sit and go back
Yeah.
and forth. And they have the funniest slangs and they sound hilarious when they say them. And I'm always thinking like, how could that even be used in regular conversation?
Right.
But the busting out the say less always makes me laugh. And
Yes.
what was the other one I was just thinking of? Well, I can't remember
I know
now,
it's the
but
pressure of it. It's fine. I'll DM you when
yeah.
it comes to me later. I'll be like sitting here trying to make dinner and be like, holy shit, these nuts. That's the one.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
these
yeah,
nuts, but my God, there is something that's sitting there that I'm like, I forgot that slang now. That's just in my normal vocabulary. And people are like, please stop. But
yeah.
it's fine. I can still blend in at ambiguous age, so it's fine until I start talking. And then they're like, oh, you're an idiot. Because I tell people all the time, they could gaslight me into any phrase is slang. They could straight up come in and be like, yeah, people are saying broccoli now instead of like, are you tired? They're like, oh, you look pretty broccoli. And I would believe it. Like, I would 100% be like, yeah, that sounds like
And
something
then
slang
someone
would have
else would be
thought
like,
to.
"Oh yeah, but they're shortening it to Brock. You got to say Brock, or
Brock.
it
And
doesn't
then
count."
I would slowly make fun of them when they committed to the bit. And if they were committed to playing the long game, and within 6 months, you would have me saying Brock without even realizing it. And no one, thankfully, no one's been smart enough to play this long game, but it would work because I'm just so like, I don't know what that is. That sounds like slang. I don't want to be a boomer. You're right. let's let's evolve or die.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. So just play
Boom.
the long game, and you got it.
Play the long game. I'm gonna Brock is now something I'm on the lookout for though, because someone's gonna do that.
We're gonna have to find a way to fit it in.
I'll do my hardest to make someone slide it into BL4, just like a little little something somewhere. That's my long game. Be like
You just
anytime,
see it
just
in red text somewhere and be like, "What is
well, like, what the
this?"
fuck is this? I'll be like, who do I need to bribe? What do I need to talk about? Just spam tweet every day. It's fine. Like instead of the Jacobs to say picture, ignore it all. Just make Barack a thing. Make fetch happen. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
Speaking of fetch, apparently there's a remake of that movie.
Oh, there's a music. So I just saw the
Yeah,
FNAF
like a musical
movie.
version.
And so they have a Broadway musical of it, of Mean Girls. And right before the FNAF movie, it was the first time I saw a trailer for the
Mm.
musical movie. And I had no idea that that was happening. And I don't know how I didn't, because I'm always stuck on musical theater TikTok and like I'm in the union. So like I don't know how I didn't hear
Yeah,
about this. But I'm
amazing.
ready. Like Tina Fey was in
So
it. I'm
that
excited.
actress who's
Yeah.
playing
Regina.
what's the main character? Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. The actress that's playing her is hilarious, and I see her all over her interviews and everything.
Amazing.
I love her. She's amazing. So
I'm so excited.
I'm actually kind of excited about it. I shouldn't be, but
You should
my
be.
my wife made my daughter watch Mean Girls for the first time like a month ago.
A plus.
So I'm gonna be kind of geeking out to go watch that with them.
You got it. I unironically have a World Burn from that musical, the song they sing in the trailer, ironically, that My Name is Regina George, on my Handsome Jack playlist for my character playlist for when people ask for songs. Is that? And then I have a song from Les Mis on there that I'm just like, no, y'all don't understand. This hits in a certain way. You gotta understand. It's amazing. It's such a good musical. It's such a good musical. It's gonna be so fun. But yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea. And the FNAF movie, who knew would be what breaks the news to me? But we
Well,
love it.
my son was so excited about that movie, and we went and watched it, and he loved it.
I love it.
He loves
I watched it
it.
again last night. Actually, it only at home last night. I saw it in theaters first night because I'm like, I'm gonna see spoilers. And
Mm,
it's one of those things where I think I had a little bit more grace for it because I didn't know what I was expecting going into it. But it was one of
yeah.
those, if this is a genuinely good movie, I'm going to be surprised. And also the games aren't gory. And like, I love horror and there's
Mm,
plenty of PG-13. Like, I don't know. And the tone they went with it was unexpected, but I kind of thought it worked a lot. And I feel
yeah.
like I noticed people who don't like it, like K6 was like warning me. He was just like, if you go in with any expectations, you're going to be disappointed. I went in with none and was still disappointed. I'm like, it's also like appealing to a wide audience, but it's also fan service. But I think the thing
Yeah.
they got right at that point where it's everyone criticizing it either likes FNAF fine but isn't really into it or hasn't played it. The people who
Mhm.
love it are the people who are obsessed with FNAF. And that's the fan base that's the hardest to please. And so seeing it break all these
Yeah.
records and stuff, even in a strike, like I'm like, this is amazing because go Blumhouse, go like do this thing. But
Dude,
it's
I love that production company puts out some bangers. They're
they put some
crazy.
bangers, seriously. And like the production value, like I love the sound design of the movie, but then like even
Mhm.
the security office looks so exact. And the animatronics are so cool. But I love Muppets anyway, so I love Jim Henson. So I would have enjoyed just going for that. But I was like,
Yeah.
what were we gonna do? 2 hours of jump scares of him locking himself in a room? Like I'm like, just I don't know what I was expecting, but it was fun. I like that they had their own Twilight baseball scene where like supermassive black hole is playing and it's absolutely why is this in the movie, only they're making a fort.
Yeah.
I dug it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun.
Yeah. It's cool when you have games like that that they have some lore to it, but like it's pretty simple. Not like crazy complex
It is
as far as like it's not like, Destiny out there where they have
no.
literal books of lore coming out and Elder Scrolls where you can read 5,000 different pages of text kind of a
You would
thing.
be shocked. In the game, no, it's always like one of those things where it's like it took 6 games to get any lore actually committed from it.
Yeah.
But now they've like between their books and everything, I went to go read like a synopsis to like refresh because I never like deep dove into anything, but I played them
Mhm.
all and watched them all, like enjoy it. And then I was like, wait, how did this get so convoluted at this point where it makes no sense? And it's kind of like how X-Men like treated its own like canon at a point where it's just kind of like, we're making a new
Yeah,
decision now.
it like introduces a simple thing and it builds on it and eventually becomes a much bigger
It's
thing. But
unrecognizable now and it could be
yeah,
a lot of things. And I think they captured a lot of highlights from that. And I'm a
yeah,
Scream bitch, so I really love Matthew Lillard. So anything he's in, I'd be like,
yeah.
yes, you are perfect. Do the little knifey wipe and I'm happy. Like,
hmm Yeah,
baby.
Scream was man, that's a franchise.
It is. I made my server watch it for a lot of people's for the first time not too long ago, and it
Uh,
killed me. Spoiler, but it killed me that I was sitting there, and in the scene after Sydney has sex, and they're sitting there and they're like going around the house. Someone in chat was like, "Okay, are there two killers?" Because like someone was like, "How did they get up the stairs that way?" And I was like, "That's not even a thing. Like that's
oh,
not
like don't
even."
ask these questions. Shut
It
up.
wasn't even. It wasn't even like the movies are. Wes Craven is a genius, and this is so well done, and it's one of my faves. I'm sitting here like, shut the fuck up, like, and everyone's like then joking
Yeah.
about it because I like didn't say anything about it. I'm like, I'm just pretending I didn't see this. Like we're not talking about it. So it's like, you just wait 4 minutes. Wait four
Yeah.
minutes for the reveal, please. We've made
That's
it
so
this
funny.
far, but it's so
Did
good.
you enjoy the TV shows they put out?
I didn't finish them, but I enjoyed what I was watching. I just never fully committed to getting it. It kind of fell off like
Mm.
Sabrina was for me. I want to go back and give it another chance though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost the same thing. Like the first season was really, really good,
Yeah.
and the later ones not so much.
Yeah, things just kind of happen. And I was like, Sabrina, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, the vibes of it, the atmosphere, like I'll get patient, go through it. And then by the end, I was like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, like y'all took this way too
You,
far.
yeah,
You're
you
supposed to be just
just,
like teenage witch, and y'all are getting into way weird stuff now.
the fourth, I can't even, like, the second season almost lost me. And then it got to the end because I was watching it because I knew, like someone in it and I kept waiting for him to show up and I was like, oh my God, is he actually like Satan? And I sat there and I'm like, where the fuck? Like, why isn't he like I thought he was like a one-off person at this point. And so I'm watching it just on binge mode. I'm like, this is the most boring season. What happened to everything? And then the last like 2 episodes with like a climax of stuff where that stuff was like, oh, okay, it's good again. And then season 3 completely abandoned everything again. And I'm like, what are we
Yeah,
doing
three
here?
was not great.
It was
I
not.
didn't even finish it.
Yeah.
How about do you watch The Boys and Gen V?
So I need to. The little trauma I have with the boys. It looks great. I was really excited for it. I genuinely love a lot of Seth Rogen stuff.
Mhm.
Steve Jobs 2015 is one of my favorite movies, and I love that he has like a turn of like a more serious role in it. Fucking love it. I for a long time before COVID until everything hit, I had a superhero film in production for like 10 years and like graphic novel. And when I watched first episode of The Boys, there is an almost identical scene, like shot for shot, moment for moment, in
Oh
part of
man.
it. And luckily the thing I stuck to my guns on that we like swapped, like they so clearly, but like my drug and mine is blue, like so many little things where I was like, And then every meeting became, okay, so like with the boys, I'm like, this is a completely different
Yeah.
conversation. And now it's dead in the water right now anyway, because then BL3 did the same thing where a similar arc came out and I am part of it, and then, pandemic happened and the entire thing is no longer, allegory on the nose now. So I'm just like, okay, this needs to be redone. But I've not gone
Mm.
over that initial trauma watching and seeing this like Jimmy Fallon scene and going like, okay, I'm just gonna go have a drink. Like I'm just like I'm not because I just like how many I'm not saying it's stolen, but how many scripts did this get passed around and how many and like
Yeah.
all that. And so I hear it's fantastic and I've seen clips of it and I'm fascinated with people's reaction to it because I used to work in politics. And so seeing
Uh-huh.
people unaware of a lot of like self-projection things and Homelander itself and
Yeah.
everything, I'm very into the internet space. So I know I need to commit and watch it because every single thing I've seen from it, I like. Um,
Mhm.
and I need to get over myself.
The actor who's in Gen V is the actor from Sabrina,
Oh, really?
and I couldn't pinpoint where I knew him from at first, and then something of Sabrina came out like a thumbnail or something.
Yeah.
I was like, that's it. He's Salem.
That's insane. That's
And
insane.
now I'm trying to I was like
Yeah.
watching it, I'm like, why do I know him from probably a couple different things, and I just could not remember what it was. And now when I go watch the next episode, I'm just going to be thinking about Sabrina the whole time probably.
That's absolutely me. I watched Arcane for the first time finally, and one of the voices, I sat there and I was like, "Where do I know this?" And I was like scrolling every inch of IMDb. I'm like, "Nope, I know his voice. Who does he sound like then? Where do I know?" Like, and it was like Victor or something like that. I'm just like, I don't know why I know you, and it's all I can think about every time he's on screen. I'm like, "This is great. This is a great show. I want to pay attention," but my brain is like, "Where do I know you?"
Oh, I love Arcane so much.
It's honestly what I tell people. It's one of those I dug my heels in where people I knew it would be good and I just missed the boat while everyone was like really hyper fixated, especially in the Borderlands cosplay community. A lot of people like cross over to Arcane at that point
Mm,
because it's very similar style. And I just was so busy with work, I didn't have time to like stay up with it. And then at that point, it was one of those things where okay, everyone's obsessed. Like my brain won't let me look at it right now, right? Like it was like I know this will be good, it'll be there, whatever. And then I finally watched and we watched in like one day, and I was like, this show was so fucking well done and such like I can't imagine having that kind of adaptation for your game. I felt the same when The Last of Us came out. Kind of stuff. Arcane was so well done, and I'm really genuinely excited for season two. But I love every time I ask people like, should I get in a league now? They're like, no. And
no,
I'm like,
don't do
they're like,
it.
don't ruin it, don't ruin it. I'm like, well, it almost got me, but enough people have been like, no, don't. Just keep it Arcane.
Yeah, that's one of those toxic PvP games where everybody that plays it hates it.
Yeah,
And for me, I didn't like it because like I had a bunch of friends that were playing it and I had never done it before.
yeah,
And they were like, "Oh, you come play with us." I was like, I
yeah,
don't know. I know there's a lot to learn about it. Like, we'll teach you what you need to know.
yeah.
And I get into it, and then your friends are being toxic with you while you're learning it, and you're like, "What the hell is
You're like, who do
this?
you
I don't even want to
become?
be your friend right now."
You
And
just
so
become possessed.
I was like, no, this ain't for me. So
Wait,
I bounced
great,
immediately.
great point though, because you also did DVD and a
Uh,
PoE, because this is always the debate of what's the actual most toxic one. And what do you think is between like all of these? Because DVD people will swear it's League people will swear it's League, but
oh,
PoE people are
it
like PoE.
has to be. It has to be League of Legends
Really?
because everybody is so mad at each other in the game,
Yeah.
but they don't stop outside of the game.
Just something
they,
happens.
they're so toxic about their own game, and every single person that plays it, if you ask them if you should get into it, they tell you, nah, don't do
I've
it.
not had a single person, even people like someone I drove who was staying with me at the time to a championship in LA that they were going to. I said, "Oh, I should check it out." They're like, "No, you
Yeah,
shouldn't." Like, no one has
yeah.
recommended this
But
game.
like at least with Dead by Daylight, you get someone that's maybe complaining about Dead by Daylight or something, and then you're like, well, should I try? Should I learn it? Like, yeah, I'll teach you how. And they're kind of like excited to show a new person how to play the game.
I could see that. I
The
see
other
a lot
games
more
are
people
not
just
that
being
way.
like, "No, which game? Which game?" I heard the
I
story, that, and then never mind. I'm
so
like, "No, I want to know."
yeah. So in my mind, it's like League of Legends is the most toxic game in the world. And
Yeah,
then second place would be any competitive shooter.
that's fair.
You could be talking Call of Duty, Apex, Valorant, CS:GO, whatever. It's people, getting their testosterone measurement
Oh
against each
yeah.
other, whatever. Like it's nonsense. That's why I always have my voice chats and text chats and everything just like friends only or lobby only or
Smart.
whatnot. I don't deal with that. Even in Rocket League,
Really?
there's two options of text that you can do. There's even a voice chat now, which I've never used before. But there's two options for text. You can do like a quick chat thing where they have like default settings for it and just little template things that you can do. And that's
Yeah.
what the console players have access to. And then you have like an actual text where you can type everything. I have it set to friends only or team only so that if I have to give like a informational message, my
Yeah.
teammates can get it, but I don't see anything from the other team because people will be so backhandedly toxic. Even there's a quick chat called What a Save. And it's supposed to be used when you actually make a really good save and your teammate's like, oh, what a save, kind of a thing, like, oh, that was a great move. But now it's just used as a ironic thing. Whenever someone doesn't make the save, everyone just spams what a save, and it's just like a toxic thing that people
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And it's like,
That's
well, even with templated stuff, you guys are toxic. I'm just not gonna listen to you.
yeah, no. I did you see Overwatch did the thing where it autocorrects GG easy to copy pasta now?
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
It literally it will be like my mommy needs to hold me, I'm scared, or I'm really working through some insecurities right now. People just spam those instead. Like they're just like, cool,
Yeah,
you know exactly what I'm doing now. I'm gonna do this. And I'm just like, it's become part of the culture of that
yeah,
toxicity. People will find a
that's
way to make
amazing.
anything toxic.
Yeah, it's true. And that's why like I'm so over the trying to prove better or worse kind of thing. It's like
Yeah.
if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. Everybody knows the result of what happened. I don't need anything else. I'm not getting paid to play this. You're not getting paid to play this. If it was like an esports interview or something, maybe it would be a little bit
Yeah.
different. But even in the esports for Rocket League, the kids are so young, their
Yeah.
personalities haven't like had the time to mature and develop. So they're super like conservative and like withdrawn into themselves
Yeah.
that you don't get the smack talk that like the NBA
The
players and the NFL
personal
players
talk.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's very rare that you have a whole lot of flavor in those interviews. And
Yeah.
that's why when players shine and they actually do that, I'm like, okay, you're my favorite. I love you.
Yeah.
This guy's awesome.
Exactly. Oh, I never understand. God, it took way too long. I say this every day. I don't know why my brain decided to yeet this from my brain. When people want to talk about like GG Easy, there's a whole thing, or
Mm.
smack talk in that kind of way. I think maybe it's my trauma of like my sports teams like not being the best, but I never understand the urge to do that because I'm like, it doesn't make you look better to be, especially when
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
an
yeah.
overtime or an actual hard one. I'm like, when people are
Yeah,
really
yeah,
just
yeah.
like this stiff, this whatever, I'm like, every single time, and
Or
maybe I'm too literal. I'm like, I would love someone to explain to me once when they enjoy doing it, why, other than it's funny, because
mhm.
it genuinely just makes you look worse at the game when you do that.
Yeah. Or my favorite is if you lose, the person's a sweaty tryhard.
Yeah.
But if you win, you weren't even trying.
You're throwing or you're not even trying or it's
Like
or like
what?
whatever. Like there's
Yeah.
never just like, oh, you bested me. Like
Lol,
GG.
GG easy, wasn't even trying. Like, okay,
There's
whatever. Shut
always
up. You're done.
something. It's like,
Yeah.
and I'm again, my teams are very mean to me, sports wise. So I've had to get very like used to being like, no, we're gonna do it, guys. And like sometimes we will beat Bama, and other times we cry for several seasons in a row, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's never been like cool if you're
You
rolling
just
through a
said
match.
Bama, so now I'm wondering which teams you're talking about.
I'm a diehard University of Tennessee fan.
Really?
I'm from Knoxville originally, also
Okay.
Atlanta, but yeah, I've been West Coast like 10 years, and so when we got the Rams here and things like that, like yes, and I love the Dodgers, but I grew up with the Braves,
Mm.
and then I followed the Mannings wherever they went for NFL, and so now that they're not
Peyton
there,
Manning's
because
my favorite, one of my favorite players of all time.
we argue all the time in chat about Peyton Manning because people want to come and talk shit. I'm like, you are not touching Peyton Manning, like you will not, no, my bae.
He, he's amazing.
I've
That
had
dude was
dogs named after
amazing.
Peyton and Eli. Like I don't
Yeah.
talk to me like I love Peyton Manning. We respect 16 is the sacred number here, like what he does for Knoxville. And that's, again, what I talk about when we have the Jack arguments. Do they bring back Handsome Jack? I'm like, it's like Peyton Manning coming back to coach Tennessee. It won't happen because he knows how much people love him in Knoxville. And if he comes back to coach and it's fucked up, no one will love him. He's smart.
Yeah, no.
He will be an advisor. He'll do that. But if he has too big of a role in there, he's going to be the one people blame because people are cutthroat. And these are 18-year-olds we have on the field we're screaming at. Like, no. Absolutely not.
And it only matters what you've done for me lately. It doesn't matter what you did in your time.
Exactly. And I would die for Peyton. But yeah, my sister played college basketball and stuff, but like grew up with Pat Summitt, you know, all that. Like I'm a very diehard UT fan. And because of that, we've been cursed for about, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years. Since we really kicked out Fulmer, honestly. But it's, you know, traumatic. And so I feel like I'm the cause of a lot of it. Like if I wear Tennessee colors on game day or look at the score, if I watch the game, we lose. If I don't watch the game, we win. So I blame me for this recent Bama loss because I looked up the score at TwitchCon because someone had texted me about it. And then literally after I looked it up, I was wearing my T necklace, forgot to take it off. I looked up the score and I was like, oh my God, we're winning. It's doing great. We did not score again for the rest of the game after I looked.
Oh, no.
I'm like, I'm just saying, Bama. Causation, like whatever we're talking about, like, no. But again, to be Bama, be rolling everyone all the time. Is that fun anymore? Is it fun to go GG easy? Y'all are so, like, isn't it just boring at that point? Like, don't you want a fun game? It's fine.
Yeah, I really dislike Alabama.
Bama sucks. Who's your team? If you just like Bama.
I am from Utah, so I am a Utah Utes guy.
Nice.
I'm like, I don't know, 25 minutes away from the school or something.
Nice.
And since they've had for football, since they've had Kyle Whittingham as their coach, they've done really well. That's who coached the Sugar Bowl team that beat Bama. Amazing, right? And they, won the Pac-12 twice in a row, but this year their starting quarterback got wrecked, and he's been out the whole year.
My main mod's a Utah boy, and it's been
shocking.
It's always a thing where I'm like, I'm rooting for you. As long as one of us beats Florida, I'm happy. Like, this is where we're at. Like, beat Florida. I know, I felt so bad. Alec is a Florida guy, and he was editing my VOD the day we lost to Florida. And I had some choice words in there. And I was like, you know what, buddy? You know you're valid. But I'm outing him. He's going to be the one editing this, so he'll delete this anyway. But literally outing him that he messaged me. He was like, the refs gave us that game. Like, you were kind of sold short in that game, and you're the only Tennessee fan I'm ever going to say this to at this point. I'm like, yes, thank you for admitting it. Thank you. Because I was half watching it and trying to farm a Cobra on stream, but sitting here just like repeatedly giving my,
it's funny. Like I love football. It's my favorite sport ever. And I love playing it, love watching it. It was amazing. I have been less and less entertained lately because the refs are so like they're creating these penalties to be so ticky-tack now. Like I'm watching it and I'm just like, how is that a penalty? Even if it helps the team that I'm rooting for,
it feels weird.
That's a bad penalty. I don't like that at all.
Like, I'm never one to really quick to be like, oh, the refs, this, whatever. Like, I'll call out some that they haven't. But, like, we've had fucking 13 men on the field for a thing before and lost in overtime. We haven't had to redo it. Like, things fuck up. Yeah. It's happening. Like, we have, but things they call pass interference, I'm like, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, that's not anything. And
the defensive holding.
So many.
Oh, my gosh. I was watching the Colorado game because I love Deion Sanders. He's one of my favorite players of all time. And I love the journey at Jackson State and now Colorado. It's been really entertaining for me. So I'm watching the game and I see Shiloh Sanders get thrown out for this targeting thing. And I'm watching it. I'm like, that was a really good hit. That's the kind of hit that's fun to watch. Why is that illegal?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It doesn't make sense. And then if I let my brain go into like NFL territory for a day, and then because I don't keep up with NFL as much, I like watch the games and get the fuck about. But there's just too NFL got boring for me. College just has that passion to it at the point. So without following like specific players, I'm like, yeah, I like the Rams, but I hate the Titans. Like, I'm from Knoxville, I'm not from Nashville. Like, fuck that. And so I didn't have a lot of loyalty otherwise outside. Like, I still have my Manning Broncos jersey, and that's about where I'm at. And so when I go back, and I'm just like, the rules are so specific, but at least like sometimes I can like break them down and make sense. But you go to college sometimes, and I'm like, if it's 1 foot in, 2 foot in, and we're looking at it, we should look at this replay, and we spend forever looking at it, and then the call will land on. I'm sitting here, I'm like, we're all looking at the same thing, so I don't know why this happened in the first place, and I'm just seething the rest of it. It just feels so many personal fouls, so many things. But Florida throwing a punch in the face at the end of the Tennessee game, nothing, like, it was in a game, it's fine. And I'm like, It's yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite end where I will watch the college stuff because it is football and I love
Yeah.
football. And Utah actually has a couple teams,
Yeah.
whereas the NFL we do not. But I do like NFL a lot more. And so that's where I usually watch all my stuff. Plus, I'm a big fantasy football player.
Yeah.
And that is always the cause of a lot of joy or very big frustration each week. And it actually makes you like kind of watch games you wouldn't normally pay attention to.
I was so into NFL when I was doing fantasy, but I only did it for like 2 years. But the league I was invited into was actually the family I was babysitting for sometimes at the time. And it was so funny because this one girl came to our draft and she was like sitting there. She was had a mimosa. She was there. She goes, "I'm going to go through. I know nothing about this," because we had our people who knew every stat,
Mhm.
everything, whatever. And she was like, "I'm ignoring my favorite things. I'm ignoring whatever. This is fun. I'm finding if I want a player, have they been charged with domestic violence? If they have, I can't pick them." And it was
Yeah,
like
hell yeah.
the most absurd draft though,
Hell
because the
yeah.
amount we had to go through, where I'm like
So
having
good.
the mix of the not serious fantasy people and then the people who were really serious. It was a lot of fun, but like right off the bat, like three of my players got hurt, kind of thing,
Yeah.
and I was just like, okay, well, this
Yeah.
might be a
It's
little
rough.
little emotional for me. And then I just never, when they moved away, I never found a new one, and like didn't look for one, and I was just like, stop watching NFL. But I watched a ton of it when I was doing fantasy,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. The boss I started working for at this company I'm at, he decided he was big into fantasy football and he wanted to create
Yeah,
a league. So we had a bunch of people from our work and then some of his friends and stuff. And now it's turned into a pretty big thing where we go to his house. We have a live auction draft together,
yeah.
and everyone gets together and they have drinks. And his wife is like the most amazing chef out there ever. It's so good. And we'll just have a big draft for 3 hours doing this auction draft. An auction is so much more fun than just
Oh
regular
yeah,
snake draft. It is amazing because you'll have someone nominate anyone they want. Like the first pick of the draft could be a kicker or a
it's
DK
amazing.
or something, and everyone just like you have a budget and you just
I
you
need that
you
chaos. That sounds
oh, it's
perfect.
so good. But the league, there's like a $200 entry fee, and then you have to pay for all your transactions and trades throughout the year. So when it's all said and done, you're paying about like $300. So
Yeah,
it's a lot, but people
yeah.
are serious about it and they actually pay attention to it, and it actually makes it really fun that way.
Yeah, it's a different type of competitive little thing to keep going that's so out of your
Mhm.
control, but is so
Yeah,
fun. Yeah.
you're
It's
just
like you
like,
can count
I'm
stats
gonna
all you
guess
want.
the right thing this time, I bet.
Every time I'm like, no, this makes sense. Statistically going through, I'm making an actual not gut decision. This absolutely would not perform for 3 games or like
Mhm.
would be injured the next game. And I'm like, cool, then I don't know. Who do I like? What names do I like? Eli, get back in there, baby. Like you're fine.
Yeah,
Where I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
like it's not working out for me. But it was still a lot of fun. Very competitive even on the weeks that I couldn't really catch up. And I was just like, oh, I forgot to like adjust like the first year I did it when I just like was so out of practice of what to do.
Mm.
And I would go in and be like, okay, well, two of my people are benched this week. Let's see how this goes. And somehow I would still do decent. I'd be like, let's go, baby. Like we're doing it.